Here we are. Hang on. Now I'm having a fucking issue. Hang on.
Oh my God, this has been a great first impression, man.
I know. All right, there we go. All right, we're rolling. We're rolling. All right, we finally got it. It took us 20 extra minutes, but we are live and on the air. It is Friday night here in the United States, and this is a special edition of the Metalheads Unite podcast. I am Chris. He is Jason, and with us tonight is our very special guest from Virginia's very own Ashes Ring. We have vocalist Vinny Carrion. Vinny, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, thanks for having me out here.
Yes, sir. Thanks for joining us. Like I say, sorry for the technical difficulties here. We usually have everything squared away. Like I said while we were talking before we finally made it on the air here. This is actually the very first show we've ever had on a day other than Saturday. We have our normal live stream show, the Metalheads Unite podcast, on Saturday mornings from about 10 to 12:30 here in Tennessee, and then back in July we actually had our first live appearance. At a concert about an hour from here. But other than that, everything's been on a Saturday morning. So this is the first time we've done anything on a Friday night. So I guess we kind of did this to ourselves here. But I think Jason's still trying to get everything plugged in. But
yeah, there's like an opposite size of my other one, so I'm having to like flip flop every fucking thing.
No worries, man. No worries, man. You good? You got power now?
Yeah. Well,
right.
So I just talked about, so I'll just go with that one. Well, it started crackling no sooner than you went live, and I said, no, fuck it, we're not doing this. So
oh no.
So I was like, I'll just plug back into the new one with or without radio.co. So
yeah, that's okay. That's right.
So anyway, welcome, Vinny, to the show. So
yeah, thanks for having me.
So I met you guys at Blue Ridge. Did you guys actually play Blue Ridge, or were y'all just hanging out? Or
now, so we my bass player actually won Monster Energy 4-day passes, and
nice.
we took that as an opportunity to get out there, network a bit. I think you probably got one of the cards we did. We printed out QR code on it. Yeah.
Yep.
We passed out 1,600 of those guys, man, while we were there. So it's
nice.
been cool. We've gotten a lot of response from that. You can be the best damn band in the world, man, but if people aren't listening to it, they don't know anything. And we're not the best band in the world. Don't get me wrong, but we're at least getting people to listen, right? That's the key.
Well, I think if anybody claims to be the best, I would call them so they were full of shit anyway. So I mean, there's always somebody better. So
yeah.
And like I said, it always depends on the music too. Like I mean, we know for just using Metallica as an example, because we all know who Metallica is. I mean, they make 4 or 5 great albums that everybody's in love with, and then they make 2 or 3 that everybody's shitting on. So so it's, so you could be the $300 million making band in the world and still get people disliking your stuff. So
exactly. I mean, I think the thing I try to tell people when they reach out now these days, a lot of people are trying to ask, like, what are you guys doing to get any traction? And I even flip it the other way, right? I mean, you can be the shittiest band in the world, but if you market, if you get out there, you meet people, build connections, you're going to do better than the better band down the street who's not doing any of those things, right? I mean, you got to get people to your music, and relying on the internet 100%, like everyone thinks that they just put their stuff on Facebook and send all the invites to all their friends, and that's all they got to do. It has become so easy to overlook everything online because you just get inundated with data, right? So especially in forums like Facebook, like I love things like this, right, where we get to meet each other, talk, and have a conversation. But Facebook doesn't really allow that. It's full of junk, and people just overlook it. So you got to do more than that. And going out to your local scene, putting flyers up, going to other shows, networking, it's a huge part of it. And people think that you don't have to do it anymore. Like that's how all the bands, that I love from the 80s, that's how they did it, man. There was no internet to rely on.
Put up their own flyers and
yeah, I still think there's a lot of power in that. I mean, we are fans of the music, number one. Everyone in a metal band loves metal, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you gotta be willing to get out there and be a part of that and respect the other bands who are doing the same thing you are and try to help each other out as much as you can. So
and it's some what's so crazy about that, you saying that, is like something people in rock bands, just like typical rock bands, are metal fans. So it's kind of it's we've talked about a few times on our show about that. It's kind of wild how we say it a lot, where Gene Simmons always talks about rock being dead. I was like, man, rock's far from dead, dude. You just your rock, your version of rock may be dead, but the reinvention of rock is alive. So
I think rock pretty strong. I mean, when it comes to metal, I'll just one piece of advice: if you're looking to make money, don't do metal.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, it's for love of the music. I mean, we are lucky enough to not need this for income. But I mean, I almost feel like it's getting to the point where in order to be a successful smaller band, you have to have a lot of money on tap just to keep pumping in, man. I mean, we have so much merchandise and we do advertising and stuff, and just getting it out there. And recording, man, is so expensive. Like we do a ton of it in what you're looking at right here. We do DI guitars and I do all the vocals here. The only thing we don't record in-house is drums, and then we send it out to our mixing and mastering guys. So, I mean, you gotta be smart. You gotta skill up in like everything in order to have the flexibility to bring a good show, because the equipment we have, we wouldn't have been able to pay for it if we were having to pay for every little step of recording and stuff like that.
Right.
So, yeah, it's just those tips.
Yeah. Now the fact that you had talked about, getting out and meeting people and networking and all that stuff, I actually, like I was telling you, before, Jason showed up and we went on the air and everything, because you and I had a chance to talk just briefly for a couple minutes. We've been doing this since the beginning of 2001, so we're into our second year. But we still kind of consider ourselves like a fledgling podcast. I mean, we do have a pretty decent reach. We do have fans literally all over the world, which is still kind of like a mind blowing thing to us. But we've still gotten out to a lot of shows during the summer. Jason and I, we just went to Nashville Friday night to see the Bay Strikes Back tour again. And there's a group on Facebook that we're both members of, who we are friends with the moderator of that group, and he was actually at that show also. And when I hooked up with him at the show, he actually introduced me to a member of another band that he knows. So I got to network with another musician while I was there. In between sets, I was talking to some of the other fans, in the up against the barricade area, and did a little bit of shameless self promotion and let a few of them know that we had a podcast and all that stuff, and showed them the YouTube channel and all that stuff. So did a little bit of networking ourselves, but with kind of that boots on the ground kind of thing, actually getting to actually physically, and we love doing this too, but getting out in like a live setting, of course you're enjoying the show that's up on stage, but also getting to meet new people and talk to them. Like I say, I'm listening to the band whose member I was introduced the other night. I can't remember what position in the band he is, but he's in the band Oblivion Myth, and they're a local band here in Tennessee. So I've started to listen to some of their stuff, but so being able to actually go out, having a show like this is great, but being able to actually meet people, like you say, is awesome too. Just getting able to just have a casual conversation and be like, by the way, I got this if you want to check it out. So I mean, every little bit of networking you can do, because I mean, we've got we have of course we have like I have a personal Twitter that I use to promote the show, and then Jason's gonna laugh at me for this, but I have a Metalheads Unite TikTok that I started that I have done absolutely zero with yet because I'm too damn afraid to look like an idiot on it because I don't know anything about TikTok. So we're trying, because you talked about Facebook being a little bit of a limited medium. So that's why we're trying to branch the show out also. So we're kind of going through the same, I guess, growing pains to a certain extent that you guys might be.
Yeah. You know, this is a conversation I have with Ryan, who's our bassist. Him and I have been long-standing members. Like, you know, we've been playing together probably 12 years, and this thing's gone through different iterations. But we're very business-minded when it comes to this, right? You know, you got to have good music, right? That's number one. You got to have a good product.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, that good product is only the beginning, because now you need people to know you got a good product. How do you get people to give it a chance, right? And like what you're talking about, there's so many things, right? There's Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. I mean, everything, YouTube. You have to have it all, unfortunately. Now, as a person who's creative, it sucks, to be honest, because I have to manage, and that's on me, because that's my role in the band too. I'm managing every one of our social platforms. I am the lyricist. I am the main principal songwriter because I'm the guitar player, and I am also the vocalist in this band.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't leave a lot of time to develop, you know, like easily develop the skills I need to be in the project when I'm constantly doing. I mean, I keep telling them, I was like, dude, I just want to offload it to some company and just let them do it. But no one's ever going to care about your product or music in this, you know, particular scenario as much as you do. And every time I think about I'm going to do it, I realize, no, I can't give the reins over to that, because no one cares about this like me. No one knows how to present it. So you're stuck. I mean, it's a rock and a hard place, because rather than, you know, for you guys, I'd imagine it's developing content and you know, working on gear and stuff like that to do, you know, the show. Well, all the hours you spend on all these social platforms takes away from the art. And it's a double-edged sword, man. It's a double-edged sword. You got to do it, but I wish I didn't have to.
Yeah,
one thing I do tell people on here a lot, and like somebody always says something that reminds me of being a pro wrestler. I was a pro wrestler for 18 years, and you're talking about promoting and stuff. Like when I grew up into this thing, into the world of pro wrestling, we didn't have YouTube. YouTube was a new thing, and we didn't know anything about it, so we didn't have YouTube to promote anything. We were printing flyers, and you know, all of the wrestlers and referees and whoever was available went out and painted the town with them. I mean, that's what we had to do.
Yep.
So I still feel like that's maybe a part of that's missing, as far as like nowadays it's a little bit different because a lot of stores don't want that garbage on their windows and stuff. But that's an unfortunate thing. But when the way you say that about a product, like I had a chance to go somewhere with what I did, but when I got into it, it's like, okay, they're going to give me a contract and they're going to change everything that I've built because they're going to mold me into what they want. And it's not, and that's not, I wouldn't have believed in that product if they would, you know what I'm saying? So it would have been a lot harder for me to go out there and do what I did and having to change my persona and everything to mold about what they wanted. And it's like, I'm not doing that. I'll just stay here and be poor, but
agreed. And that's agreed. I mean, when it comes to any art, I mean, what is it that is the next level that the companies per se that would get a hold of it and push it to that? What are they doing for you that you can't do for yourself is the question I start asking now. And in today's day and age with music, there's not very much. I mean, it's just distribution really into like, mom and pop stores anymore, but getting it online, getting it on streaming, which you don't make any money from streaming. That's all about reach, right?
Right.
That's trying to funnel that traffic back to your website to get sales on merch, CDs and stuff. But, it's not, I don't see much of the point of anymore of having, the label, as they say, other than those couple things like, getting bigger shows, getting into situations where you can be thrown in with, well-known bands on, nice tours and stuff. That's going to be harder to do at this level that we are. But at the same time, I mean, we're kind of doing it our own way. we don't really play a ton of shows. I'm a big advocate in lots of things. And one of the things about a band that's business minded and you're keeping a ledger and you're looking at your finances is you don't do stuff unless it's actually, makes business sense, right? So playing the same show in the same town to the same people 4 times a month makes no sense when you think about it from a business logistical standpoint, right? So we're very big on just like making every move in a business sense. And that's why we don't we're not out there every week. We take bigger, better shows when we can. We take shows, in the local market that we believe in. There's a local place out here in Richmond, Virginia, and Richmond, Virginia is huge for metal these days, right? You got Lamb of God shirt on right there, right? So there's some great guys out there doing some great things. There's a metal night that goes down at another Round Bar and Grill out here is what it's called. And I mean, that's cool because every week they bring in a free metal show with real metal bands, and it's building a community, right? So we believe in that. We'll show up for that. We'll show up for it. But these other things like, hey, come out and play for free in front of nobody. We're not going to get anybody in here. We're expecting you to bring people from hours away. That makes no sense. That makes no sense.
Yeah. Right. Him and William Savant from Sepsis could have a good conversation about those things, I think. So,
yeah.
So the Sepsis is another band we had on here a few months back, and he kind of was ranting about the same thing. It's like, we want you to pay to be on this festival, and he's like, no, I'm not paying to be on nothing.
No way, no way. I'm not. We've gotten to the point where we put it out publicly. It's very hard. And we won't really do it. We won't take a show unless we're paid. Now we will do charity shows, and we will do shows that, like if we believe in it. But if a national band comes rolling through here and they need support, and they're like, okay, yeah, you're gonna sell 40 to 60 tickets, and that's how you get on the show. And we don't care how many tickets you really sell. You're still going to be accountable for it, which means the band ends up having to pay for like 30, 40 tickets. I'm not playing it. There is no way I'm playing a show like that. There is so much to do that is so much better than going out and playing shows like that. Writing new material, working on recording, working on your art, at the basic level, man, just, running scales as a guitar player, working on vocals and harmonies. That is so much more valuable than going out and playing for free and playing shitty show after shitty show. That is after you get to the point where you can play a show, right? I mean, I think there's that window in the beginning where you should take every show you can possibly get because you've got to, get used to being on stage and work out the kinks. But once you're through that, and I think everybody, no matter who they are, has that initial stage fright or inability to play at their best level until they play a good, 10, 15 shows. And all of a sudden it's like, it doesn't matter how many people are there. You're just doing what you do. And they're not going to care how bad you mess up. I've never seen anybody come up to me and say, "Oh man, you just sucked tonight," even though I know I did. No one's ever said it. They're like, "Oh, you guys are great," right? So I think you need that experience, though. I mean, I think a lot of young players think, I have seen the bands who just they just go for it, man. They might have the worst gear, the worst sound, but they're out there doing it and they're having a blast. And people, the energy that comes from that is so much better than seeing the band who spent all the money, all the time to play every note, and they stand there like zombies and they just look down. Who wants to see that, man? I don't want to see it. You can listen to the CD and get a better sound anyway.
I just wanted to take a minute to welcome anybody listening to radio.co. We are finally live on there now. So our apologies there. It was a scheduling mishap on there. So we are good to go on radio.co. And for those joining us, we have a vocalist, Vinnie Carrion from Asher's Rain band from out of Virginia. So you haven't missed a whole lot, but you was talking about, the thing that I like about, you was talking about the Lamb of God earlier was Randy was always like, he's like so down to earth when I hear him like talk about certain things. And it's like, some guys like, how do I scream like you? He's like, I want to scream like you. He's like, no, don't try to be like me. Be don't be a second Randy Blythe, be a first you, exactly. And I think that's cool to be, that popular and still be kind of that down to earth about things like that. And And I just seen another article with him recently where he was just like, man, you just got to, he said, what's the, some young guy asked him, said, what's the big thing about being a lead singer? He said, you just got to go out there and act a fucking fool and don't be scared to do it. It's just,
I saw that. He said, don't be afraid to look, he said, don't be afraid to look dumb.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you have to do. And I mean, so that's the thing about acting. I do acting part-time too. So when you go into those things, you're just going in and you just be goofy as fuck. I mean, you're not yourself. So you're playing a character. So you have to show them that you're willing to play a character. So you go in there and just act goofy as fuck, and you usually wind up with a part. So, and that goes back to kind of what you were saying with promotion. Like, I've gotten more acting gigs by myself than I ever have by an agent getting them for me. So it's kind of like what you said. So why do I need one? But I mean, at some point it may have to come to the thing where you may have to have one, but until then, I'm not going to worry about it. So
yeah. I mean, you'll know.
You'll know. And you were talking about that too, and it reminded me of like bands that have been around for 20 years, like Nonpoint and who was Chevelle, like all those bands that went independent. They didn't do that for nothing. They did it for a reason. I mean, and it's obviously because, they feel like they could make more money that way. And honestly, I'm a big Non-Point fan, and I actually think they got better since they went that way. That's just me personally, but
I mean, you got to think, I mean, you get back to being like what you are when you're early in, right? I mean, you're doing it because you want to. You're not being told what to do. It's like micromanagement in anything, right? I mean, any job I've ever been in where I got a boss breathing down my neck constantly. Look, you've hired me to do a job. If you trust me to do the job, let me do it, right? Mm-hmm. Or you can constantly micromanage me and tell me what I need to do, which is going to take all the motivation out of me to do it, right? So that's why, like, with Ryan and myself, I mean, we're working on this band every day. Every day we're doing stuff. I mean, our website and stuff. So Ryan is actually a coder as well. He does all of our web design. We have paid for nothing but photographs, I think, at this point. And the recording, like I said, I mean, we paid for mixing and mastering because I can mix and I can master. I mean, I've got everything I need right here in front of me to do the job, and I've done it for other bands. But I'm also a huge believer of you should never mix your own band, because I know that it's human nature, right? What am I going to be looking for? Mm-hmm. Every guitar part that I'm playing and every vocal I'm doing are going to be the most important things to me that my ears are hearing, because it's me doing it, right? So I would not give any justice to the rest of the band. I need an objective person outside of that to do that job for me. And that's why we went out and we went to a great engineer that's local out here, because we've heard his stuff. We knew he could do a fantastic job for the EP. And then we actually got Jamie King, who did like Between the Buried and Me and stuff, to master that album. So, I mean, we got a little bit of like oomph from him, but him and the guy, Dan Uphoff, who's the engineer on that, have a really good working relationship. In fact, Jamie King was recommended by Dan because he sends basically all of his stuff to him. So, when I went into the studio, I was like, here you go, man. This is your job. This is what we're paying you for. I'm not going to give you too much, direction, because we know you can do a great job. Go ahead and do it. I mean, I prepared all my parts and I sent them to him from here. Same thing with the bass. And like I said, the only thing he actually recorded was the drums. But I mean, we knew enough to like get all the DIs and everything done in the studio here. That way the engineer could reamp him if he wanted to. So he had his full tonal palette to play with. I think that's the way you become self-sufficient as a band, is you learn how to do all things. You learn how to do, if you look in the back, I've actually got mics on the drums right now because we're doing pre-pro for our next single that we're doing in October. So before we go to the studio, everything is done here. Everything. Just like it's going to be done in the studio. All the click tracks are done. All the tempo tracks are done. All the guitars, all the vocals, bass, and drums done here. And then when we get to the studio, I mean, it's usually 1 or 2 takes and we've got everything we need. That's how you save money, guys. Although you got to spend some money to get the gear to do it.
Right.
And you got to spend the time, right, to learn how to do it, right? You got to learn how to use your DAW. Lots of years of preparation go into like getting to where you can be self-sufficient. But once you are, man, it's like what you guys have heard on that EP, you would never have heard a performance like that out of me because I've never done vocals before. I've always been the guitar player in this band and writer.
Oh, really?
I've never done vocals before. So I've actually got a vocal booth right beside me over here. And if I hadn't had Ryan, bassist, sitting here doing vocals with me, we spent probably 200, 300 hours on vocals, man. And we didn't pay a dime for it because we just stood there and did line by line and tried things. And we just kept trying until it sounded like it would be good because I didn't have the skill. I didn't have the skill. So before I played a live show, I went to like a year of vocal training out here in the Sharpsville area where I live. I mean, I've never been a vocalist and I was so bad. Like you guys have no idea when I'm saying bad, it was, I remember I blew my voice out like the first week I was trying. I had veins popping out my neck and I couldn't talk. Like my throat was closing by itself out of nowhere. It was crazy, man. I ended up going to the doctor and like they're like scoping it. And I had to go to a vocal teacher to be taught how to manage that because as a guitar player, I've done that since like God, 15, 20 years. You know, with your fingers, you can just keep going, man. Like you don't have to stop ever, really. I mean, they might cramp up, but you can keep going. But when I went into vocals, I thought, oh yeah, I'll just keep hitting it. I got to get better as long as I keep hitting it, right? I mean, just like guitar, I'll get better and better through practice. Can't do it. You cannot do it. The voice gives up. And if you push it too hard, it's gone. It's completely gone. And it sucks. And learning how to balance a live show with screaming and cleans, because I do both.
I was about to ask that. So,
oh my God, it's so hard. I mean, I've got like a damn vapor mask thing, like a personal vapor. Like I'm out there before a show and I'm out there just got this thing. I'm like walking around in the back, dude, drinking tea. I don't drink any alcohol the day of a show until after performances and stuff, because if I do, I get dried out, man. And I cannot do it. So it sucks in a lot of ways.
So I used to be a pharmacy technician too, and we used to, like being here in Nashville, we used to have to give out a product called Entertainer's Secret, and a lot of
I got some of that, dude, in the white bottle. Yeah.
So a lot of musicians use that stuff. So,
dude, you know,
I could go on like about every, you know, if I started like going on about the things I've done, like we would be here 2 hours talking about me. So
funny you say Entertainers.
I actually had a pharmacist one time said, "Is there anything you haven't done?" I'm like, well, I mean, if I haven't done it, I know somebody that does. So it's like, so they always call me like, "Hey, you know a plumber?" I'm like, yeah, actually I do. So
well, you know, with the Entertainer Secret and stuff, it's really funny because as a vocalist early in, and I've only been doing this now for about 2 years, everything was hard. So I used every crutch I could find. I had that. I had the throat coat tea, cough drops all the time. I mean, anything I could possibly like that I think could get me through a show, right? None of that really works. I mean, this is me saying that now because what really works is just staying hydrated, drinking water like all the time has become like a staple. Like every day now, I just drink a shit ton of water. And technique, man. You can't get around having better technique. And I don't have a great technique yet, but I work on it all the time. And I don't have to stretch nearly as hard to hit the things I'm doing. And even the screams, you would think that, I mean, some of them are pretty harsh. They sound like I'm probably like hitting it really hard, but I'm not. I mean, it's in the booth, the volume on those things is really low. And it's funny with Lamb of God stuff because Melissa Cross actually did, you know, a lot of training with Randy and whatnot. And I had a bunch of those DVDs, and there's that whole technique of just staying low volume when you're doing these screams and stuff. So I started to tap into that, and I was like, oh man, it sounds just as awesome in a microphone. It doesn't sound great outside of a microphone, but you always got a microphone on stage and in a recording booth. So why not take advantage of it, right? So yeah, that's
we all can't be Udo Dirkschneider for so. Yeah,
that still boggles my mind.
It was so funny.
He never warms up.
Yeah, was this the interview? They said, "What do you do to warm up?" He said, "I hit the stage. I don't ever do anything." I was like, "I just go out there."
There are some unicorns for sure, man. I call those guys unicorns.
Yeah. So, this guy doesn't like take breaks. I mean, like he just had an album out. And he's already talking about another one. I'm just like, damn. It's like,
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's almost like I think him and Matt Heafy are in contest with one another or something. But
Oh man.
well, shit. In that contest, Udo's winning because I mean, you figure all of the solo albums he's done in UDO, and then you count all the Accept stuff. He's way the hell ahead.
Yeah.
So I've always wanted to know this. So you said you basically had to quote unquote, you basically had to learn to sing. What is harder to learn to is clean singing harder to learn, or is it what everyone would think would be the obvious thing, screaming? Which one's harder to actually learn?
So it's really funny, man. I really hated screaming vocals for a very long time. Any band that had harsh vocals in it completely turned me off. I was a big fan of all the guys who do like falsetto, Queensryche, Maiden, Judas Priest. These are the bands that I love. Skid Row, for instance. I mean, I love Sebastian Bach. Guys like that who had really good, high, clean vocals, but also, how do I say it, had balls in their voice too. Like you get some vocalists who do the high stuff, and it's just like very falsetto all the time, always too high. And they don't have any range. But I like the guys who could get into the chest. They still had, like I said, the fire and the balls there. But, when it came to singing, my tonality was okay because I'm a guitar player and I play lead guitar in this band. I mean, in fact, everything on the EP, funny fact here, all guitars were done by me. We didn't have another guitar player at the time. We actually lost our other guitar player right before recording it. Because he blew up on Twitch, and he had to quit because he had so much going on Twitch. Well, he had to move on. He didn't have the time for the band. So right before that happened, so I had to end up doing all guitars and all vocals. So it was funny because it's like harsh vocals are harsh. They hurt, man, when you start out. Like it felt like razor blades in my throat, man. Like it was obviously not the right way to do it. But sometimes, like when I talk about technique, when you're recording, it's different. Like when I go on stage, I know to bring it back a little bit, right? When we're playing a live show, I got to pace it. I got to get through the first song all the way through the end. And, we can play 45 minutes to an hour and it's got to mix it clean and heavy. The hardest thing to do is do heavy vocals and then try to do the nice clean vocals after that. It's really hard balancing act. But in the booth, I throw technique away and I just go for it, man. Like whatever feels right and sounds the coolest, right? So I guess to get back to the question at hand, I felt personally that screaming vocals were much harder from a physical standpoint. Physically, I could sing okay, just not with the type of like tonality and range that I wanted early on. But heavy vocals, man, I could do maybe a half a song in the beginning and my voice was gone. Yeah. So I had to give credit to these guys who go out there and do it every night and they can walk off stage and have another conversation with you and their voice is perfectly fine. It's like it really takes a lot to do that, and you got to really work with yourself to understand how far you can go. Clean vocals, I don't know. It's just, to me, it's never been as hard to have the stamina on clean. That's me personally, but I've always been kind of easy to do like the higher pitch stuff. I can hit higher notes. It's harder for me to go low. So it's kind of funny. I guess everyone's different really when it comes down to it. But clean singing is all about notes, man. You get yourself a piano and go through scales on the piano and match the notes with your voice and you're on the right track, man. And you can start to hit those notes over top of songs. Everything sounds good. That's why auto-tune works, right? Because it's a person who can't sing and just takes the notes and binds it to that. So it takes your voice and just matches it algorithmically to the notes that should be, and it's going to sound okay. But you don't get any character still from auto-tune, right? You've got to still get in the booth and, I guess think about with talking about wrestling now, man. Like if you're in a wrestling match, you've got to be wrestling. You've got to be physically fighting, right? well, if you went in there and you're just like, well, come here, guy, and you grab him over, like, that's not going to look right. It's not going to look right, right? So that's how you become. That's how you have to do it in the professional level. You could go up there, but in vocals, you got to hit it. You got to hit it with energy and passion, I think, is the best thing to say.
Believe me, I watch some of the stuff sometimes on there as a wrestler and be like, and still say that's dumb as fuck. What are they doing? I'm like, or see them like barrel each other through a bunch of fucking fluorescent light bulbs and be like, why? I mean, what?
There's some crazy stuff out there, man, in the wrestling world. I mean, there's like cage matches with stuff going on, and I'm like, whoa, this is. I like.
Well, the bad thing. The whole bad thing with that is like you don't, and there's only like a couple of like big hardcore promotions that will actually pay you good money to go out there and get cut the fuck up. Where most of these people are going out there doing it for $50 or $60 and say, fuck that, I'm not doing it. I remember not to take away from what's going on, but I remember having a match like that one time, and it was like a hardcore company, and I didn't do any of that stuff, but they were like, look, man, we got to have everybody in this battle royal. I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I'll do one. I said, after that, just leave me alone. I'm not doing no more. And he's like, all right, cool. So I agreed to do the one. It was so funny. Like I wound up like trying to grab something out from under the ring, and I found a football helmet. So I wore that the whole time. I was just like, yeah, you're not fucking my face up. Sorry. So it was like, that was like so funny. They actually got video of that. People will send me pictures sometimes. Hey, remember that? I'm like, oh yeah, that was hilarious. But
that's great.
But that's good to know about the whole vocal thing, because obviously being in a metal band and we're metal fans, I'm sure at one point or another we've all heard it, that it's just a bunch of noise and anyone can get up there and do it. It's like, okay, go ahead and fucking try it and see how that works out for you. I hate
to say I used to be that guy when it came to heavy vocals like that. like I mean, I can't remember the first band I got into that actually had screaming vocals that maybe some Kill Switch maybe back in the day. But up until I was like, man, screaming isn't anything like singing. Singing is hard. To sing like Sebastian Bach is, at the time, was greater than screaming like Randy Blythe, right? To me. Right. Now I can't say that anymore. I mean, they're completely different things. They're two completely separate techniques. And me being the psycho that I am, decided that this band needed to have both. Now it's funny because we were a death metal band, and that wasn't really by choice. I gotta be honest. I mean, I've always been a fan of like progressive metal, and I'm talking old school Rush, Yes, Pink Floyd, stuff like that. And I grew into the heavier stuff, so I got into 80s thrash, like Megadeth. I mean, was huge to me. They were probably, I mean, obviously Metallica. I grew up with all that stuff, man. So I mean, of course, every guitar player learns Metallica tracks, but honestly, I gravitated towards Megadeth because it was, to me, very sophisticated, where Metallica was just all about just being like, they'll fucking do whatever they want. They're just going to do it, and they're not going to take no for an answer. They do what they want, and they're going to go as fast as they possibly can. Megadeth was a little different. Like, they were doing the same thing, but it was a little more sophisticated, it seemed. Like you bring Marty Friedman into the band, and you had the guy before even Friedman on I can't remember his name right now. He played on Jeff Loomis's album, the original guitar player. Very jazz oriented. Something Chris
Poland.
Yeah, Chris Poland. There you go.
Chris Poland. Yeah. As soon as I knew who you were talking about. As soon as you said it, I fucking went blank. But yeah.
But that is something that Metallica really never had. I mean, in my opinion, and I'm not taking anything away from like Kurt Hammett or anything. But when I listen to that, and then I listen to Megadeth, like the leads in Megadeth just blow me away. And I wanted to aspire to play like that. And that's what I did. I mean, I play more like that than I would say I play like Metallica. But I've had guys in the band, funny enough, who were big Metallica fans throughout the years. And I definitely have seen that sometimes there's something to be said about just like having that attack, like not trying to play so clean. I guess Marty Friedman and Chris Paul, they're extremely clean players, man. And I love clean playing. John Petrucci's one of my favorite guitar players. But it actually, funny enough, when I stand beside one of these other rhythm players in my band, sometimes I'm like, frick, man, I sound like I have like no balls whatsoever compared to these guys, because they're just fucking beating the hell out of their guitar. And I'm over there like very micro movements, right? Like everything is perfectly tweaked. And I don't think that's the way to go. I think you got to have a balance with everything. And lately in the stuff we're doing, I had to learn that, some of the sound that I really like is just the attack. Just dudes who are banging it out on a guitar that are maybe not actually able to play it like they should be able to, but they're not going to stop. They're going to do it anyway, and they'll do it until they get it, and boom. And there's something in the sound of that, like playing a little bit outside of your comfort zone. It's like going off the rails a little bit. Like a train going down the tracks is awesome, but a train going off the tracks that comes around a corner and kind of comes off a little bit like, that's fucking sick. That's it. I'm going to stop and look at that train for a little bit longer than the train that just takes that nice little curve, right?
Yeah.
So it's funny because that's the analogy I use in a lot of it. I like to play a little bit out of my comfort zone on pretty much everything anymore because it gives me that feeling of excitement, and it sounds. You can hear that excited sound in it. If I just play what I'm good, you can hear that I'm just playing what I'm good at, and it doesn't translate to me anymore. So it's funny.
I don't know if have you heard the new Megadeth album?
I love Kiko, man. He was in Angra, and I'm a huge progressive metal fan, so I knew about Angra for a long, long time. So yeah, I listened to every album. Dave Mustaine, he's kind of gotten annoying.
That's one of the things that me and Chris was talking about, like with this album. I was like, dude, did they have like Kiko playing one hand tied behind his back this whole time until this album, or what? Like they just let him loose or something. They uncaged his ass on this album. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah, but, he's insane. I definitely like the first track, like the single they put out. I mean, it was definitely much more old school Megadeth to me. The last album that I love, man, was like The System Has Failed, I think, that had Broderick on it. That album was actually like amazing, man. A lot of people overlooked that one. But I actually dug things like Risk and stuff too, man. Like I know people like to crap on it. Me too. I thought it had some pretty awesome, cool stuff on it, man. And what was the one before? Cryptic Writings? Was that before or after?
Yeah, Cryptic Writings, yeah.
Yeah, so Cryptic Writings had, oh my God, so much good shit on She-Wolf. Oh my God. I loved it.
Well, the funny thing is, like, it's funny you mentioned that album, Cryptic Writings, is, with all of the good stuff that Megadeth's put out, obviously Rust in Peace and all, and,
right.
Countdown to Extinction. Funny enough, Trust is like, that song Trust is one of my favorite songs of theirs.
Yeah.
It just hits completely different than all of their other stuff, which is phenomenal. I mean, Countdown to Extinction is amazing. And Jason's heard me say this before. Really, the only album of Megadeth that I don't like was Super Collider. But
same. I don't like that either at all.
But I think there was like 2 songs on the album that I like, and maybe only one. I think Kingmaker was really the only decent song off of that album. But it's like we always say on the show, like everybody has one. Basically every band that we like has got one album that you could basically crumple up and throw in the trash. So Megadeth definitely gets a pass.
We talked about like Metallica. A lot of Metallica fans, when they hit the Black Album, were already giving up on them. They're just like,
that was my favorite album.
That's not thrash, But I mean, obviously, it was the biggest album they've ever had. But
that's what got me into Metallica, man.
It was so crazy. They come out with Load and Reload, and then they still like people were like shitting on them, and then at that point, we're just like, okay, man, y'all got to do a little something different. And then you Saint Anger Us, and we're like, okay, motherfucker, that's it.
No.
We're done. That was like the worst album that, according to us. But I think it was more like Chris said, it was about the recording. It wasn't really, the song material. It was more the recording, how they recorded.
Yeah, I agree, man. I remember I hate to be such a jerk about it, man, but I was super psyched for the new Metallica album, and that thing came out. And I remember had prepaid for it, went and got it, had it. I threw that shit out on the way home. I mean, I was like, how did I just pay for this, man? Like, what is this? It sounded like Lars was, and I mean, I know Slipknot was probably a thing at this point, probably if I'm getting in the time, but it literally sounded like Lars was playing on trash cans. I'm like, what the hell is going on with this album? It was It wasn't. It had like one song I remember thinking was like, oh, but most of it was like horrible. So yeah, I got rid of that thing. But you know,
Did he not just sound like me when I got that last in this moment?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's exactly what I said, dude. What the fuck did I pre-order this shit for? Like,
Yeah.
You know, it's you know when you. I don't know, man. It's interesting being into recording and stuff like I am. I've done a lot of things, and samples, man, rule the world right now. You know, most drummers are playing with their stuff triggered, and in the studio, they're going to trigger it. Any engineer that is doing a modern metal production is going to mic and trigger your drum kit. Most of the time, they're going to try to blend those things together and give you a blended sample, because you need a sample to cut through, man. But I find that a lot of the drum sounds on modern, like, I don't want to say lower tier metal, but like bands who aren't like as well known as the greats, right? Like I'm never going to fucking see Charlie from fucking Anthrax, Charlie Benante, right? I'm not going to see him and go, oh my God, his drum sounds like shit. There ain't no way. I mean, he's got such a signature sound at this point, and he's very much in the room for those decisions. But a lot of bands are getting these things done, and they're just getting the engineers are just throwing samples all over everything. And I think you can hear it, man. You can, and I don't like it. I like more of that woody, real tone of drums. So I have definitely hated on some albums because I just didn't like the tone of things. Right? I mean, it just sounded like every other band. Every other band sounds just like these guys, and I didn't like it. So
and doing what we do, like I'd make a playlist every week, and it's based on the stuff that's coming out. That like I'll do it on Wednesday, but it's based on a lot of bands coming out that Friday, and I try to like put that out there to introduce people to new music. And like, you know, I listen. You know, I have to. You know, I probably listened to 50 or 60 damn bands this week, just because it was a long list. But there's always seems like there's always a band on there that's like. I'm just like listening to it. I'm like, man, this would be so much better if it was not the recording. Just was like, it's like all the instruments are out there, in your face, and then the guys way back here going, it's like, dude, if your vocals were just like in line with the music, this album would probably be so freaking awesome. Like, I listened to this one twice this week because I could not believe. I was like, man, if this would be. And I wish I could remember the name of it right now, but like I said, I listened to so many. But if he would have been on beat with and toned with the music, man, that album would probably be a superb album. But with that recording and everything, and like Chris has listened to a few too that sound like they're singing out of a trash can, inside of a trash can, and it's like why do that? But I mean, maybe that's the only recording they can afford, and they just want to get out there. But like you said though, you got to be hooked on what you're doing, and like at that point you got to be like, okay, do I want to put out this shitty product just to get out there, or do I want to take time and record it properly? And to me, I think a lot of this was rushed because I think a lot of bands took the shutdown as a chance to try to get out there because people were just dying to see music, at that point. And it makes sense. It does. But then again, like you said, if you put something out there that's so amazing that people are going to be like, holy shit, man, this band's badass because, we've been stuck 2 years in the house to can't hear or see anything.
That's
and
right.
Now all this new music's coming out, and, we knew it was going to be like a flood with new music after all this, but, I'm not complaining at all because I love listening to all these bands, especially some of the ones I've never heard of. And the bad thing, I think Rick from Extinction AD that was on this show a few months ago as well, he said, yeah, you got 50 or 60 bands on that list. He said, but how many of them are going to last 4, 5, 10 years? And that's true. I mean, because like I said, there's so much competition with music. And I don't hate to say competition, but I mean, it really is.
It's hard to just keep a project together, dude. We were close. I mean, to calling it quits. Probably back in 2016-ish, sometime around then. We had been together for probably 5 years at that point. Just trying to find vocalists, right? Was always painful, and drummers actually was always just such a laborious process, man. And then you finally get some people in, and then you just find that you don't actually work well together. You all love music. You can play well together, but you don't enjoy each other's company. And that actually started to show me that, wow, this is actually a little more important than I thought. I would look for the best players. I wanted to always play in bands with the very best players. Like I turned down so many opportunities to play with people because I'd listen to them and be like, you're just not at the same caliber that I want to be at or that I am right now. And it would be me having to come down a little bit just so you guys could catch up sort of situation. And I've always been kind of a stickler about, like, I'm not playing with anybody unless they are of a certain pedigree, right? Mm-hmm. Well, let me tell you, that was not the right attitude to have, man, because I ended up playing with people that were awesome instrumentally, but they were horrible people. You know, we did not get along. It always imploded. So that's what happened. I mean, Ashes Rain was like a death metal band out in the Richmond local scene for like 5 years. Numerous singers coming in, all screaming because no one could sing at all. I always wanted clean vocals. I always wanted clean vocals, man. Like all these bands we're talking about. I mean, so far, like, I can't really be, if I'm being honest, I mean, there's no one even in my top 10, I'd say, that is all screaming. I mean, I love Lamb of God, man. They're awesome, but they're not like Dio for me. Right. And right. Priest and all these. Yeah. And so I needed that.
We've done a top 10 vocalist on here before, and I don't think Randy was on either one of ours because it's
really?
That's kind of not, yeah, man, because that's not what we, it's not what we look for a lot of times in a vocalist. We were talking about Howard Jones from,
yeah,
and like Rob Halford, and one of our other favorites is Tim Ripper Owens. I mean,
oh hell yeah.
So it's so it's like guys like that kind of like strike us as the metal metal singers. No disrespect to Randy, because I mean I've heard Randy sing some cleans and he sounds really good, but it's like anything else, so that's not what Lamb of God is. So
right.
It's kind of like
Lamb of God wouldn't be Lamb of God. I mean, they need exactly what he brings to that band, and no one, honestly, man, I don't think there's many guys that do it better than him. So
I agree with that.
So, but that's not what I traditionally have wanted in music, right? In my own music. But that's funny, going back to your question earlier, was, what was easier, singing or screaming? Well, funny that everybody who would come in to try out could scream, no one could sing. And I think it's funny for me. I'm different because I'm an instrumentalist. I'm a guitar player. I know notes. I play lead guitar. So for me, I know when a note is off, right? Because I've been playing guitar for so long. So I think that's why it's easier for me to sing than it was to scream, right? So probably for most people, the answer would have been screaming's easier, probably. Because I can tell you this, man, there are so many bands I hear that they're screaming and I'm loving it, and then they try to sing and it's like, stop, don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't.
Just
don't do it. Do what you're good at, practice it until you get good, but lean into what you're good at, man. And some of these guys are a million times better screamers than I'm ever going to be, but then they try to sing and the whole song just drops, man. And I'm like, oh.
I don't know what irritates me more, that or if I hear a band that's like, oh man, this is good. They're screaming and cleaning, and then all of a sudden, I'm like, this is great. Then they go, and I'm like, oh, why didn't you fuck it up? It's like, oh my god.
Yeah, I mix some of the things in now too. It's funny, man. I mix some of that stuff into there, but it's all been development for me, right? So we lost drummer, we lost singer at the pretty much same time, around 2016, 2017. So rather than let the band die, Ryan and myself, the bass player again, decided we're going to keep writing. Well, how do you do that? Well, like sample drums, man, became a thing. Like they're basically drum machines inside your computer. I learned how to program drums from that point forward, and I started writing all the songs, completing them with programmed drums, and they sounded awesome. They sounded better than we had a real drummer. I was like, crazy cool. We finished songs. Now let's get singers interested. Still no one would come out. So during the period, I was like, well, let me just start doing, actually Ryan was the one who said, hey man, you got a pretty decent voice. Why don't you do demo vocals to finish the songs up? Then we can just bring people in and have them relay it. I brought my brother in who was in a hardcore band, very, very, very talented vocalist, like screaming vocals. He's actually done a lot of folky music too lately, and his cleans are really good. But he came in and laid heavy vocals, and I had clean vocals in the chorus. And man, it sounded crazy good. Now, we could never work anything out because we lived so far away from each other to where that could seriously be a thing. But I think that's what led me to go, okay, this band with that sound sounds really, really interesting and it's good. So let me develop heavy vocals with clean choruses a lot of times and see if we can't get more of that metalcore sound, even though I'm not a huge metalcore fan, to be fair. But I think that's kind of what Ash's Reign sounds like these days. It's kind of like a metalcore band with some thrash and progressive metal mixed in is kind of what we are, which makes us a little different, really.
Yeah.
Because we're not doing breakdowns. I'm not a fan of just going dun 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 dun. And it's very boring. You know, as a guitar player, I can't do it. So I mean, we do some interesting things on you know, in our writing, in our riffing, and it's catched on, man. People have actually started to dig it for the first time in my life, man. I've been in bands for a long time, and it wasn't until I took over vocals in this band and started writing like this, which is easier now because I know what my voice can do. So I write songs for that, right? It's no longer writing a song and handing it to a guy and it's completely out of his range and he sounds like shit on it. I know what it needs to sound like for me. I'm gonna write for me, and because I'm doing that, it's making it so we can write music faster. We can write music more consistently that sounds good pretty fast, and you know, here we are, man. So don't give up, anyone. Learn how to play all the things. Is what I'm saying.
While we're talking about the vocals on this, I wanted to talk about the Mountains Echoes EP that just came out earlier this year. So the last two songs, like the Stand Together, kind of like it teased me for a minute with some cleans, and then it kind of popped. I'm like, oh, okay. So then you got me with the Always and Forever, because I was waiting for it to pop and it never did. So I'm just like, these guys are making me think. So it's like, I mean, it was all learning. Like Mountains was the first song that we completed, and then very first song I've ever done vocals on. And there are things in that song today that if you see us live, I sing completely differently. It was a ton of learning, but once we finished the song, it was one of those situations where I could have went over it a million times and never finished it. I had to move on. I had to get it to where we thought it was good enough, move on to the next song. But what ended up happening, and I hate to say it, is I've developed my vocals throughout this period of time going through those songs. So actually Always and Forever was the very last song we did, and I was singing way better at that point than I was on Mountains. I wish I could go back now, redo the whole thing, but I'm not going to, right? It's there, it's done, people still like it, but there are things about it, man, that like Stand Together was like the third song. Like Stand Together, in my opinion, has some of the best vocals I did on the entire thing. And the cleans and stuff. And I was like, wow, I can actually do this, right? So I got some confidence a third of the way in. Like, okay, we're past the first two songs. Now on the third song, I actually feel like I can confidently maybe sing for real and people aren't going to hate this. And that gave me, I think you can hear it. I mean, now that I'm saying it, I think people go back and listen like, oh yeah, I can tell. but funnily, What Should Be, which was the second song, was the big one right out of the gate that people really dug. I guess it has a good chorus and whatnot. It has a really good guitar solo in it. So people like just, you know, metalheads, they have stuff in it that they can resonate. It's approachable. It's nothing too like, it doesn't trick you, man. I mean, it's a straightforward song, right? Stand Together, like you said, it teases you a bit, and then you're like, oh man, this is a nice clean track. And then all of a sudden we're into this heavy stuff and people just don't know where it's going. I love that. I mean, I think that's probably one of my favorite ones on there, but we have had a lot of success with What Should Be. And then all of a sudden, Always and Forever, man, in the last like month has gotten to be really, really popular. And I do believe it's because it's the only song that had all clean vocals on it.
So it's much more approachable than anything else. And sometimes people are still like me. They hear heavy and they just nope. They hit the button. No, I'm not listening to anything with screaming in it. Sucks.
So you brought up Skid Row, and honestly, like,
Oh yeah.
this album kind of reminded me of a Slave to the Grind type album where you had,
Oh God, I love
Monkey
it.
Business, Slave to the Grind, and then you had like Quicksand Jesus and all that kind of thing on there. So it's kind of like you had a little bit of all that on your EP.
Dude,
like, honestly, when I listened to that, I was like, man, I keep, one of the things I was wanting to make sure I told you guys was I can't wait for y'all to do some full length stuff because I'm down. So
me too.
Yeah,
it's coming.
Who would have knew, like, somebody just handed me a business card at a show would turn into like,
and we really appreciate like you taking the time. I mean, dude, we know it's a gamble. Like, I know guys doing that to me 9 times out of 10 when I go check it out. It's like, oh my God, dude, this is sorry, but I don't keep working on it, but not for me. So we knew that, man. And Ryan's really great with marketing, dude. And he's like, look, we know our stuff is good. We know people are liking it. We've got to really put some investment into what we're doing and going out and doing that. And he's the one who designed the card and everything. He's like, it's got to be a little flashy. We've got to give people a reason to, when they see it, to want to actually check it out. I got boxes of these things everywhere. I got to show up.
Just start sending them out like mailers from like from other things that just harass people.
Yeah, it's all shiny, right?
Yeah. I still got the card in there too. So.
Yeah,
I like that.
And then on the back, you got us and the little QR code that takes you to all of our links and gets you to everything. I mean, this was a great idea, and it was all Ryan, man. He was like, I'm doing this. It's a good idea. We need to utilize. He's like, it was kind of one of those, like, the universe, right? He won 4-day passes to this amazing festival with, we knew 200 some odd thousand hard rock, metal fans were going to be there. Well, let's just get out there and throw caution to the wind. I mean, want to check out some new music? Want to check out I mean, it was just crazy, man. Like,
I think the reason they got so many takers was because they were doing it right at the top of that hill. Everybody was climbing that heavy bitch, and then like they were just like, give me that shit. I'm just like, give me the fuck out of here.
Yeah, I mean, so
like, I should have just went out and started helping people up it. Y'all probably would have got more.
Dude, it was crazy. And since we're in IT, man, the both of us in the band, so the QR codes that we do on everything actually have like geotagging information in them, so we can tell where people are, how many people have used them, where they shot it from. We do this with all of our show flyers, right? We'll go out and we'll print all these flyers, and every location gets a different QR code sticker on it, so we know what areas are being trafficked higher than others.
That's cool.
That way we're able to work smarter, right? So we can say, oh, well, this side of town, no one really hit these things, but that side of town, they did. Let's put some more money into that side of town, right? So
you don't want to play a show either where nobody's like digging your stuff. I mean,
right, dude. Yeah. No one's coming to a show, dude, unless they have a reason, right? So they're not going to come out to your show if you put it on Facebook and say, come see my band, like all the other bands are doing. I see them too. And I'm a musician, and I'm like, I don't care. I mean, I'm scrolling through here mindlessly. Is a lot of times Facebook is a mindless thing for me. I love the groups it has. I love the events. I mean, you guys even set the event up here. I love that you can do events. I love that you do groups on it. I love the marketplace, but the actual feed is like just a bunch of stuff that I just thumb through. And to be fair, I've actually limited myself to where I look in the beginning of the day at that stuff and I rip it off my phone and I put it back on before I go to bed, and I do all my talking then and updating. I keep Messenger going, but I can't, man, because so many people are like trying to hit me up through the day on posts and stuff. And I'm like, I have to have a life outside of that.
Right.
So yeah, I get away from it, but it's getting out, putting stuff like this out and talking to people. When you're out there hanging flyers up, you're engaging with people in businesses. You're like, can I put this flyer up? Oh yes, we're a local metal band. I know metal. You probably check it out. Here, check out this song. We know people will give us more of a chance if they hear Always and Forever first. Non-metalheads. Then again, if a metalhead hears it, they're like, I don't know if I want to listen to these guys, right? So we gotta,
you gotta read the room.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's why we engineered the EP the way we did. We wanted to come in strong, have the heavier songs in the front, and slowly make it more melodic and accessible as it ended. This way we can hit with that EP. I mean, we have a song on there for everybody, man. I guarantee you, anybody who listens to rock,
I can agree with that.
Metal, if you check our whole EP out, the whole thing, you will like one song, one guaranteed.
Yeah, because I
actually liked them all. So,
well, I did too. And the great thing, and the great thing about it is talking about the overall construction of the way the songs were laid out. I mean, the EP is 4 minutes. It's 4 songs long. It's 21 minutes and 21 seconds. I mean, me personally, I can listen to it all the way. I can listen to it once all the way through on the way up to work, and once all the way through on the way back. So like I say, I listened to it 6 times at least this week, if not more. But
it's not like a death metal album I tried to listen to this week that was 6 songs and 57 minutes. I was like, what the fuck?
Jesus Christ.
No,
okay.
You're right. I mean, this is the first taste of this band, right? We wanted to make it a bite-sized chunk to give people an idea of what we do, right? Yeah. And we're like, it was very well thought out. I mean, we didn't go into this, we sat down with notebooks. How are we going to do this? What songs? We've got songs that we've been playing for years that are not on that thing. And we left them off on purpose. We have a full length ready to go. Everything's written. We just need to get in the studio and record it. Nice. Now, it's probably going to be 6 songs. Now, to be fair, I'll let you know now, more of the progressive stuff is going to come out. We've got songs that are more like 8 minutes to 9 minutes long that are much more prog influenced. But we got a good mix when it gets to that point too. I mean, you'll still be able to say, oh yeah, this is them from the EP, but this is them now evolved. And we left some of these songs off on purpose. We've got a single that we're doing that is going to further get people interested, because I can say this much, it's a cover, but it's a cover that we have re-engineered from the ground up. We Ashes Rain the hell out of it. People are going to hear it. They're going to know the song. They're going to know the song, but it's like chunks of it are completely new. Like we've taken riffs that didn't exist and we've wedged them into this track and made it our own. And it highlights, it highlights all the new guys, because we've got 2 new members now that have been in the band probably for about 6 months, and they've been playing shows with us and all. This will be their first time into the studio with us. So this is also for them to get, that initial studio behind them. And we wanted to make it easy on them, because one of the guys is pretty young. He's the new drummer, and he's never done anything. Yeah, he's never done anything.
I was actually gonna ask you about the new guys here in a little bit. You're talking about William and Carter. Yeah. And I'm looking at the website, which is very well done, actually, by the way.
Yeah,
so I know you're talking about how Ryan was the one who made the who put the website together. It is actually very well done. I like on the Meet the Lineup page, all you have to do is like hover over, arrow over each one of you guys, and it gives the breakdown and everything. But I'm looking at William's picture, and he looks like he's like 17.
He is super young. He's 21, and man, it was really funny. But we lost our drummer. He actually bailed right after recording the EP. So he was on the EP. He left after that to pursue other musical projects. Good terms with the guy still. I mean, he did a fantastic job in the studio. So we have no complaints, man. Some of the drums he tracked were awesome. But when we got William, it was weird because someone started hitting me up on Facebook and just saying, talking about all these bands. He's bringing up bands that are really progressive that no one knows. He's talking Fate's Warning, he's talking Circus Maximus, he's talking Beyond Twilight, all these bands that I love. And I was like, someone's got to be catfishing me or something. This isn't
too good to be true.
and here's the kicker: he lives 20 minutes away. I have some weird cricket or something in here. But anyway,
well, I got a gnat that's been flying in front of my face for about a half hour. So
I got a weird sound happening, but that's okay. It's not a fire alarm, so that's all that matters. Yeah. So I literally was like,
you can record it and track it real quick, man.
I do. Oh, I do weird stuff. When he came over the first time, I said to Ron, I was like, dude, this might be our old drummer who we're not on good terms with. It just seemed really odd. I was like, let's be careful because I think there's potential for this to go sideways, right? But no, this dude showed up and he was real, and he is young, but he is like his musical like inspirations, man, and the bands that he's into. I mean, it's so much more like what I'm into, and I'm the main songwriter. So I mean, his drums just fit. He's a hard worker, and I think he's gonna impress some people, man, when we get him in there. He's gonna be tracking in here with me because I did this with the last guy too. He had never gone to the studio either. So everyone's always a little scared their first time going in and playing the click tracks and stuff like that, especially a drummer. Like, oh my God, I got to play the click tracks. I'm the timekeeper. Oh, I couldn't really. I get them in here. Like I said, I track everything in here with them. And then he's going to hear it here with me from a month before he ever has to go to the studio and do it. And everyone's set up for success. Everyone out there, once again, do your own freaking pre-pro. Pre-production is key in situations like this. Most bands, like crazy to me, will show up at the studio and not have done any pre-pro whatsoever. And they expect to go in and track a song that is high quality when they don't even know everything about their song. They don't know what time signatures are there. They don't know how the tempo track is going to sound when it's all done. Your engineer's going like, oh, that's a bar of 5/4 right there. Did you know that? They're like, no, we thought it was all on 4/4. You don't want to find that out in the studio and burn $45 an hour trying to figure that stuff out.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's why we do everything. I set up all the clicks for everybody. I send them the bare click tracks for every song. It has 4 clicks in the beginning, and then you just play the song from that point forward. So everyone in this band knows exactly what they're going to be hearing in their ears when they get to that point in the studio. I mean, dude, it just makes everything so much better. Like, I think, you guys have followed me, I think, a bit on my socials. You'll see me putting up guitar solos right now that are going to be, that are going to be part of in the new song. And this is how I make sure a month from now, when I get there, I have had ample time to get my metronome and just make sure it's perfect. Right now, it's not. I mean, it's closer than it was when I first did it. But I think people skip this part a lot. They just think that, well, to be fair, a lot of bands will go in and they will record like a measure of a guitar track. And then they'll record another and they'll cut and paste it all together at the end, and it will be done and it will sound pretty good because you can do some amazing stuff in Pro Tools and stuff or any DAW to kind of quantize that and make it sound okay. But I still believe that if you can track things like guitar solos in one take, you hear it. You hear the fluidity of it. You hear that it's, I don't know, you hear that it's being played for real. Some of the stuff you hear, and it's like, there's literally no fucking way anybody is playing that entire song flawlessly like that. So I'm really big on practice before recording and trying to record as much as what it would sound like when you see us live, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense, because I was just about to say you were talking about the cohesiveness and the fluidity of a song and the way stuff is put together. A lot of times that can come out at the wrong time, like when you're out there on stage and people can hear right through it and see right through it. And it's like, and you get out there in a live setting and people are like, what the hell were you thinking? You knew, because, people are going to be like, you knew when you put that down on tape. I mean, I don't know how much tape is actually being used anymore, but for sake of argument, when you put that down on tape, you knew you were going to have a hard time. Right. You knew. Yeah. When you put that down on tape, you knew you were going to have a hard time translating that live, and yet you did it anyway. Same thing with the same thing goes for a lot of vocals. I've heard bands live that couldn't produce the same vocal track live because it's like, all right, there's, you should have known that you didn't hit that note and you weren't going to be able to bring it out here.
yeah, that one's a little, I have to take my own medicine on that one a little bit because like guitar, like I have a strict rule. No guitar solo gets tracked unless it can be played in one take. Just strict rule that I've imposed on myself and the other guitar player in the band who's insanely good. You know, vocals, man, like I'll be very honest with you. Like what you guys hear with me screaming and clean, I did them on separate days. I did all screams on one day and then waited days in between to get this guy good and then did all cleans on another day, right? Because I wanted it to be the best representation. If you were to hear us live, I actually have to learn or had to learn where to kind of bring it back a little bit to get through that. Like there's some things I won't hit as hard. I won't scream as hard. So I kind of have a little bit more forgiveness on vocals, for instance. Because vocals, man, I mean, everything is like double tracked in the studio. You got harmonies and stuff that you can't do live. Guitar and stuff is basically just double tracked for the most part. It's the same thing you're playing. Vocals, man, it's just a whole nother ball game, too. But you're right. I mean, I have also heard bands like Jesse Leach, right? I'm a big fan of this guy. When he got back in Killswitch, like I can't remember, maybe 6 years ago, maybe 10 years, I can't remember. I mean, he was not good live anymore. Like he had been out of it for a minute. He took over for Howard again, and I remember hearing it like, man, he's just not hitting it like he did in the studio anywhere close. In fact, I mean, it was pretty like not good. Like he was not in key and stuff in certain times. Well, I saw him at Blue Ridge, man, and I mean, I made a post about how freaking phenomenal that guy has gotten. He has practiced his ass off. He's been very public about it. He actually had vocal surgery. But even if you listen to that today, I actually watched a Killswitch video or a concert like when I was working out earlier, and it's like board audio only, right? So you get to hear everything directly into the board, and then they kicked it out. So you don't hear any audience. You just hear this sterile board sound. And it's supposed to be like that. That's what we get because we have in-ears too. It's very sterile. But his vocals, man, I mean, are so much better. But they're just nowhere close to what is being done in the studio. So
what's crazy about that story is he actually had to earn that spot back too. They just didn't hand it back to him. It was so weird. Like we was doing a story about that. I'm like, that's crazy how he actually had to audition for his spot back.
They're my favorite.
And then he won it.
Favorites.
Yeah, he won it by doing the End of Heartache, you know, which was a Howard song, and like he did so well on it. They say, all right, you're back in. So,
dude, his latest album. His latest albums with them are, I mean, yeah, I love that album with End of Heartache on it for sure. Howard Jones is an insane vocalist for sure.
He is.
But,
absolutely.
And he gets better with age, it seems like. We were talking about that a while back too. It's like,
well, see, what's the new band? Like something, The Torch?
Light the Torch.
Light the Torch, yeah.
I'm not a big fan of that, man. I'm not a big fan. And the new Jesse albums with Killswitch, I mean, I think Jesse's albums with Killswitch are probably my favorite at this point, man. Like Incarnate was just insanely good. So it's, yeah, I'm a big fan these days.
And a lot of people shit on Atonement, but I really liked Atonement.
Dude. Yeah, that I mean, I think they're the best, some of the best ones out there. I mean, it's funny how I got in, like they were like the gateway for me. And then funny, man, recently my bass player told me maybe about a year ago, maybe 2 years, Soilwork. Like I never listened to Soilwork. Blew my mind. I mean, now that is the band to look at if you are wanting to do like heavy and clean vocals, or Scar Symmetry, who I've been into before. But I mean, as far as American bands go, I don't know if there's anyone who does clean and heavy vocals as well as Jesse and Howard are doing them, man, these days.
You'd be hard pressed to find a band here in the United States that's got the.
I still think the best vocalist today that can do all of that is Johannes from Avatar. I mean, he can actually hit the screams, he can hit the gutturals, he can clean stuff like that dude. And like I watched him live one time, and he did the first time I seen him live, he blew me away because I thought there was more than one singer.
Yeah,
and like he hit all three of those and within one song, and I'm like, holy shit, that dude's doing all of that.
I mean, that's what I aspire. I mean, I want to be able to do my vocals as well as what I'm recording. I mean, that's the goal, right? It's the goal.
Right.
But
I mean, you always. I think the thing is like when as a fan, when I go to a concert, I want it to sound as much like what I hear on a CD as possible. I mean, I know it's not going to be perfect,
what if
but I
they're
want to
using
hear it as close.
So what if they're using just tracks that so a lot of bands do this still, man. Like they just use tracks and they kind of not say they lip sync, but they have tracks running underneath. And they kind of sing over top of it and stuff. And I used to be like kind of a dick about like, nah, you should never do that. Now we don't do it because we're not like willing to work that hard to set up our click tracks and everything so everything stays in time. But I mean, at one point I was like, man, maybe that's the way to go, because a lot of bands that I really dig, they do it and they sound awesome live, but they sound almost too awesome. And it's like,
right. Yeah. You want a little bit of like, originality to
sure. Yeah.
I want it real
to your show when you go to see them live. I mean,
yeah. I want it real. Like, I know there's some guys who just don't do it. They just won't do it. Like Randy won't do it. Jesse Leach won't do it. A lot of the guys who I love won't do it. Sebastian Bach won't do it. Sorry, you should at this point. Cause
Sebastian is having kind of a hard time lately. He really is.
Not a Vince Neil hard time, but
I love him.
Oh God,
I love him to death. I love him to death, and I did go see it, and he wasn't horrible, but there's songs, man, that I just love to death, like Quicksand Jesus, and I want to hear it. Like In a Darkened Room is like one of my favorite songs ever, and I mean, he butchers it. Like, unfortunately, and I'm sorry, dude, just keep practicing. I mean, I saw you've been running and lost a lot of weight. That is good. I'm not hating, but I am saying you need to get like Jeff Tate, dude, blows my mind. That guy, he's awesome still. Like and fucking Rob Halford. I mean, incredible still, right?
Mm-hmm.
It can be done. It just requires you to really put a lot of work in. I mean, like I said, you got to stay off alcohol and stuff. You can't smoke. I mean, all this shit. I mean, I used to love cigars, man. I haven't touched a cigar since I took over vocals for this band. They're sitting in my room and I look at them every once in a while like, fuck, man, I'd like to have you, but I can't. I just can't. I mean, it takes a lot to be the voice of a band and to not go out there and sound horrible, dude. And no one gives you a pass as a vocalist. If you're out there playing a show, if the vocals are bad, the band is bad. Right. It's just the way it is. And now it's my band that I've written the songs on. So if I'm the reason vocally that people won't listen to us, then I've destroyed everything. I've destroyed all of our dreams and hopes by sucking balls, right?
So well, I was reading this, or I guess I don't know if it came off. I guess it came off y'all's page or something, the internet. But it says that you guys are a melodic metal band. Is that where y'all consider yourselves a melodic metal band, or is that?
It's really. I mean, it's hard. We're not metalcore, but we have metalcore-ish stuff about us.
Yeah,
we're not progressive.
Actually, when I first heard those first two songs, I'm like, they're really tiptoeing on the metalcore genre there. But yeah. But then you hear the third song and you're like, right. It's like, oh, wait a minute.
What are they doing exactly? Oh, wait, what? And then the last one, you're like, oh, what are they like? Are they going for the Unleash the Archers type of feel now here? I mean, we are.
I like Unleash the Archers.
I love it. Right? I mean, I love it. So to be fair, dude, it's hard. I mean, we say melodic metal because it's metal music and it has melodic parts in it.
Right.
Yeah, so there you go.
And melodic death metal, right? I mean, melodic death metal. So this is kind of something that kind of made us what we are today too. We were playing a lot of shows, opening when we were a death metal band for bands like Omnium Gatherum and Insomnium. They're very, very like Gothenburg death metal, but they're extremely melodic. Dark Tranquility as well, right? So bands like yeah, dude, you listen to that and it blew my mind. I was like, how can these guys scream and growl the entire time, yet this music is extremely melodic? So I started to look into it more and I was like, wow, okay, what's going on a lot of times is they have really pretty melody guitar lines going underneath these growling sections. And I was like, oh, so if you look at all of our songs today, pretty much every song has a melody lead underneath the choruses for that effect to make it more melodic-y. So it's got a lot of melodic death metal influence in it too. So I don't know what to call it. So we just figured melodic metal.
Well, it's So it's crazy. It's crazy that we had, like I said, we had Rick Jimenez from Extinction AD on here months ago, and he actually was talking about that. He said a lot of bands are taking, two different genres and mashing them together now, and it's kind of like creating its own sound, and it's like cool because, I was telling Chris about this the other day. I was watching this show that they were putting out. I can't remember what was. I can't remember the name of it now, but it was the one with Alice Cooper and Lizzie Hale and all them. Trying to give bands their break. There was actually it wasn't like an American Idol show. These people have been together. They've been a band for a while, and they're just looking for their chance to make it. And there was a band on there called Native Howl, and they did a bluegrass thrash. So they called it thrash grass. And like they have gotten famous because they called it thrash grass, and it's a whole new genre now.
Yeah. I wonder if they got that down in my local pot shop.
Yeah, and when they first like come out and said that stuff, I'm just like, wow, that's going to be weird. And then they played it, and I'm like, dude, this fucking works. Like, how does this work? And awesome. it sounded great. And like they're on tour with like, I don't remember. We was talking about it last week with some other big bands. So I think Spirit Adrift was one of the bands.
Oh, Spirit Adrift was one of them. Yeah, they're going to be on the Spirit Adrift tour. That's who they're going to be on tour with.
So I think that's going to be a pretty interesting, Spirit Adrift's another one of those bands that, like you're talking about, there's two guys and they go in a studio and they mix a bunch of stuff. Like one, the guy plays bass and guitar. So he puts the bass tracks down and then he goes and plays the guitar tracks and then he sings on top of it. It's kind of like
easier because you have a direction, right? You have a creative direction because there's somebody taking lead, right? And writing the songs. But then you get lucky if you get other guys like I do now, because Carter, the new guitar player, I wrote the new track out. I sent him the whole song. Everybody got the whole new song, and he comes over and he goes, "It's really good. I just have a few things I'd like to try on it, for embellishments and stuff." So he starts tracking this stuff, and I'm like, yes. Do that. This is going to be incredible. Oh my God, that's great. So this is where you kind of like, it's that working relationship, right? You got to have guys who are willing to take direction, but also be able to say, in my situation, be like, oh, well, that's what you're doing. Kicks the crap out of what I did. I love it. Please do that. Right. I mean,
so, it takes the pressure off of you too from having to do everything. I mean,
it does. It does a bit.
Yeah, but that's
what I say.
But you're always going to be. You're always going to be your own worst critic anyway. Mm-hmm. Everybody always is. So that kind of goes back to what you were talking about at the beginning of the show, talking about not mixing your own shit, because you're literally gonna take every little goddamn dial. You're gonna like, can I slide it just a little further, or can I slide it just a little? And you're gonna be like sliding each little dial like just a hair. You're gonna nitpick it to death.
I've done it, man. Even the demo stuff. So like we've got like if you buy our CD. In the CD, there's QR codes in there too, right? So only way you can get this, right, is if you buy a CD from the website or a show. But if you go in there and you hit the QR code there, it's a special QR code that has a password and everything on it. And it takes you to the directory that we have out there online that has all the demos that I did for the EP. Every song done by me before we actually recorded it. So you get to hear my take on it. And dude, I did that. I sat here for like probably 3 months on these songs, just turn every day, listening to it in the car 1,000 times. No, turn it down a half a dB. It was crazy. But we knew what we were going to do with it. Like, it was my idea was like, if we give this to the engineers working our stuff and it shows him what we're going for so well that all he has to do is his job, which we know he's good at, and bring it to the next level, then great. That's what we've done. We've given him like, it's like giving someone a drawing in crayon and then they take it and they fucking paint the masterpiece, right? It's the same drawing, but it's done with the right tools and the right technique. And that's what an engineer can do for your music when you give them that conceptual, demo. And I think you should always demo your stuff. That's why I'm talking pre-prod, man. Every band should have their pre-production done before they go in studio. I mean, all your vocals, all your harmonies should be mapped out, man. And of course, try some stuff. Like if the engineer's saying, "Hey, I really hear this cool thing I'd like you to try," be open to it. But don't burn time trying to figure things out in the studio. That is the best way to end up with a shitty recording that you paid a lot of money for.
So I just want you to know. I just want you to know you're killing me right now, because I always like read these stories where these guys go in and like, yeah, we recorded this in 6 days. I'm like, okay, well, yeah, you just pre-produced it for 3 months, motherfucker. Like,
yeah, there are. So I'm a big Dream Theater fan.
Now, like, it's not so amazing anymore. Like,
I know Dream Theater like goes in, and I love Dream Theater, but they go in and they'll like rent a cabin and like have everything, and they'll actually record it there within like a 2-week time period. But there are not many musicians in the world who are at that caliber where they can tell each other like exactly what scales and chords and progressions and times and everything, and just write it on a chart and then look at it and play it. I mean, that's not us. We're a little more raw than that. So it takes a little more thought to just get something like that EP done, and not having spent. But I think we did a Kickstarter for it, and it was basically paid for by the Kickstarter backers. I think it was about $1,500 for the entire project. But that's like including the artwork that we got done for the cover, all the production, all the packaging, all these things that you need to think about. It's not just recording, man. And $45 an hour, I mean, that goes fast. I mean, even on a 4-song demo, I mean, you're talking 10 hours of drums. You're talking, for us, we didn't, like I said, we did all of our own guitars and vocals and bass. So we got really lucky there because we know how to do that. But if you don't know how to do that, expect to be spending probably per song 10 to 20 hours per song on just your part, right? I mean, if you're doing vocals, it's going to be hours and hours of vocals. It's just to do it right, to get something to sound really good and match a modern, like the idea is, if you hear a Trivium song and then you hear a song of ours come on after that, it shouldn't be like, oh, these are a local shit band, right? You want to trick people into thinking that you're also a band that's as big as Trivium, so that they put you on their playlist and they want to listen to you more. Because if they think you're just a small shit band, they're gonna inherently just be like, oh, that's what they are, so I'm just gonna overlook it. So you got a great opportunity with Spotify to get worked into other people's, like when a song ends, if they match you to it and Spotify plays your song through the radio thing, that's an opportunity to get a listener or a follower if you spend the time to make the music really good. And so many bands, I think we were talking about earlier, they just get like really bad demos done and they put it on Spotify. That's your first impression. If I see that band again, I know you sound horrible because why would I give that another chance? I mean, there's so much stuff out there, so much bands I want to hear. Why would I spend time on bands I don't, right?
There was another band at Blue Ridge that was in that tent right where y'all were handing out stuff called Edge of Destiny. I don't know if you talked to those guys or not, or well, girl, I guess she was a female there, but she's a female fronted band. And like I got to Spotify because I was checking out everybody that kind of gave me their stuff. I was like, well, I'm gonna check it all out and see if we can, possibly get some interviews done with some of these people, because that's kind of what we do, is we want to talk to bands that aren't, Metallica and Megadeth. I mean, like I said, we talk, we're kind of a small, podcast, and we want to talk to small bands that we it kind of helps us grow together, and I think that's kind of, and like the thing that I think is so cool about this is we've created friendships through this thing. And like, even our first guest, John O'Connor from one of the last, still messaged me to this day. Like, hey, this is what's going on, or I'll message him if I haven't talked to him in a while. Like, hey man, what's going on? Everything good? And like, he'll be like, oh yeah, we're working on this new, we finally, their problem was they couldn't find a bassist. So they finally found a bassist, and now they're tracking their first full length album, or actually maybe they had a full length before. I can't remember, but actually I think all they had was an EP too, wasn't it?
Yeah, theirs was an EP.
So they're actually tracking their first full length album. So now, and I told him, I said, you'll be the first probably repeat guest on here. So whenever you get it done, just come on. So that's, that's about promotion, and that's what we want to do. We want to give you guys an extra platform to promote. And, if we get, if we go out to 100,000, 300,000, whatever 100,000s or whatever we go to, that's that much more people that learn about you guys. And I think that's great, as far as like the music business goes, because, people that never heard of Ashes Rain, hopefully some people that are listening to the show tonight that get turned on to you guys and be like, oh, well, you guys need to come out to, Kansas and play or something, So it's kind of like, we want bands to branch out and not be, like Sepsis was talking about how they kind of local up in the mid Northeast. So now they're kind of branching out a little bit because their fan base has kind of grown over the years. So hopefully that's one of the things that we can help, do as far as build our fan base and help you guys build a fan base as well. Because, I don't go out. The thing is, I don't go out and ask people to be on this show if I don't believe that they have that, what it takes to make it further in this business, because I don't want to, I guess I don't want to come out and bring somebody on here and just give them false hope, be like, oh, well, we just want to bring this guy out because, they're a new band and we just want to promote them. No, I believe in what I hear. So I hear it first, and then I reach out and like, hey man, I like your shit. You want to come on, and talk about your stuff, because everybody has a different recording pattern, a different way of doing things. And I think it's cool to hear, all the different ways people do things. And it's like been really awesome to like go through and like hear stories and stuff too. So,
there's a couple
we appreciate everybody taking their time out to do that.
So there's a couple things through what you just said there, right? One is thank you guys for doing this. I love coming on these types of things because it's guys and women who love the music, right? Yeah. I want to include the ladies, and you heard it here. Get turned on by Ashes Rain or get turned on by me. It's fine. It's people who love the music providing a forum for guys like me to come on and talk about, yes, my music, but also music in general, man. I mean, like I said, we're all fans, number one. Mm-hmm. So thank you guys, like, and everyone else who does this type of thing, because without, stuff like this, I mean, it just limits the reach that you can have. So yeah, thank you guys for providing the service, and definitely, man, we'll be cross-pollinating. And I think that's important to state that it's all a big network, and it should be people who love music and metal. I know there's this attitude in metal that, everyone's got to be a hard ass and, oh, we're just fucking metalheads. At the end of the day, dude, I think it's just people who love music, man, who are wanting to make a connection. And we want to have that connection and we want to grow that connection. Right. So there's that. And on the quality thing, and I think this is kind of important too, it's the same as putting a bad demo on, right? Yes, I know everyone's excited and they want their music to be heard. I get that. But at the same time, there have been some people who have reached out to me about doing stuff like this that have like, podcasts or just, that whatever they're doing. But the way they present themselves and the bands that they present are just not like at a quality that I'm like, this isn't going to be worth my time. Right. So there is that thing too, right? It's a brand. You guys have a brand. My band has a brand. All these other bands have a brand. It's keeping that quality control up, because a lot of things I won't do it. I mean, I only have so many hours in a day. So if I go through stuff and I find that, I watched you guys podcast. I went through your channel and I checked the stuff and I wanted to see what you guys did before I would take my time to come here. And I think that's the same thing with people listening to my band, right? Like they're going to try a song out real quick. And if it sucks right away, they're like, no, don't want it. Right. So everyone should try when they're doing this to remember, yes, you want to do these things and you're excited about doing them, but that quality, man, it only takes one time for someone to give you a shot and you just not be at that quality that they expect. And they're like, they move on to the other guy who is. Not to say that there are some things out there that have all the bells and whistles and the content sucks, right? It's a balance. It's still a balance, right? I mean, I could have wrote really horrible songs and went to a really great studio and you'd hear really horrible songs recorded really well. That's not the trick. That's not the trick either. So it's I don't know. There's so many things. I love having conversations like this because I have them all the time with my own band guys. Like, it's like, should we go on tour? No, we should not go on tour because we haven't built up the presence in the locations where we want to tour yet. Once we have that built up, then we'll spend the money to do that, because just going on tour to play for nobody is no good, right? Mm-hmm. Although it would be fun to say we did it, it doesn't actually serve a purpose.
Well, I think it's cool.
Well, you said everything. The cool thing was,
I'm sorry, what's that?
I was going to say, you did say earlier that, you guys are very, very business oriented, and, it doesn't make sense to spend so much money to be in front of nobody, right, just to say, like you said, just to say, hey, we went to Atlanta, we went to Charleston, we went to, wherever, Knoxville, Greensboro. I mean, just trying to,
exactly.
Shooting out cities around you guys.
I always wanted to ask this too, because I never really asked this question to any of the other bands, but do you guys have like a set price that you get when you go out, or does it just get a percentage of what sales, or how does it work in the music business?
So it's different depending on where you play, and there is the whole like taking percentages of your merch thing that happens.
We were talking about that a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. It's like the 20% soft, and your soft goods are like your shirts and things you've done, like koozies, anything like that. And then you've got your hard stuff, which is like your CD. They leave that alone. So hard is they take nothing, soft they're going to take 20%. For me, I tell everywhere we go, I look at what the mileage is, and I say, it's going to cost me this much money to take my guys to this show. I need to get paid this much to show up. If it's right down the road, it's $15 for gas, man. Like, if once I get the trailer and load everything and I drive down there, it's $15 for gas about. So in that situation, I'm like, well, I know I'm going to make enough money from merch and stuff to cover that. So I'm not a stickler. But anything that's like an hour out,
right,
you got to pay me. You got to pay me what it's going to cost me to get the trailer and this. And I give them an itemized list a lot of times. Like, this is what it takes us to be here. Agree that we're going to get paid. And that's what we do now. And I put it out there probably maybe 4 or 5 months ago. Like, I made a big thing on all our socials. Like, we are no longer playing for free. Any promoters who want to work with us, please talk to me directly, and I'll tell you what we're working with. But we just need to be able to cover gas and food and all, because you shouldn't spend so much time building everything you build and working. I mean, playing guitar every day. I mean, dudes, I play every day. Like, it is practice all the time, every day. It's like brushing my teeth. If I don't do it, I don't feel right. And in order to play the stuff that you guys have heard on there at the caliber that I need to, I can't really slough off. I have to play it. Right. Well, why should I not demand to get compensation for that? I'm okay. If you don't want to pay, that's fine. But here's the problem. There's so many bands right now that will play for free. And here's what happens. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, unfortunately. These bands aren't the best quality because they're willing to play for free, and there's a reason for that. Now, what happens is all the shows get booked with these bands that want to play for free that aren't at a good quality. People come out, they hear music that doesn't sound good live. Everyone gets this idea that heavy metal sounds like shit when you go see it live. Now no one wants to come see heavy metal anymore. So what do you do to fight that, right? It's hard, because you're never going to get away from the bands who aren't really serious, that just want to go out and fuck off and drink and smoke and meet chicks. And that's awesome. I mean, there is a place for that. But when your scene is inundated with this, it's hard for a band that brings out, I mean, dude, we bring out probably $15,000 worth of gear to every show. Mm-hmm. In-ears. I mean, it's crazy what we do when we go out there and what we bring. And we're having to combat that. And people are still like, oh, I don't know, metal, man. Oh, metal is, even people who like metal are like, oh, it never sounds good. Well, I know, but we have worked really hard to sound good when you see us. And there are other bands who did too. We've just opened a show for Eyes of the Nile, which is an Iron Maiden tribute band out here on the East Coast. That is phenomenal. I swear to you, playing with them made me like, I thought I was seeing Iron Maiden. I mean, and everything was perfect. The sound was so good. And I'm like, this is how you get people to want to come to shows, by bringing bands out that are really at that caliber, that are putting on good shows, and then word of mouth spreads. But most shows aren't like that. And that's because most places don't want to pay bands. Most bands don't care to get paid. And honestly, not most, but some of them shouldn't get paid.
The reason I asked that is because whenever I was wrestling, I always tell the promoter straight up, this is what I'll come to for that show.
Right.
And if I show up and there's only 12 people there, you're paying me. I don't give a fuck. That's not my problem,
Right. But that becomes part of your brand too, right? I mean, people start to realize, oh, well, you as a wrestler, me as a musician, Ash's Reign as a band, they don't just show up for free. But when they do show up, we can expect this caliber of performance from them.
You're going to be entertained, So
right.
Yeah.
And that's why we have to put in the work. Like, I am a stickler for practices, man. I can probably be hard to deal with in a band. I'm kind of demanding as to what we do and how much we practice and how many, like, the sets are just perfectly plotted. I mean, everything has to be as well known before you go out, because all these things are always going to happen. Always the odd shit's going to happen. And if you haven't prepared for that, then you're going to flub it. So I'm just very big on this, man. And I think the guys I'm with now, they're all pretty seasoned and they practice a lot. So they're all good. But I've played with guys in the past that are like, man, you take this way too serious. I'm like,
well, no shit. Yeah. No shit.
Yeah. You don't take it serious enough.
This is my life. I mean,
yeah. Well,
this is your life. This is your,
Yeah. Those guys don't have anything out that's close to what I just put out in our debut. And that's the reason.
I'm of the opinion you can't really take anything too serious.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like I said, if you're not playing to an extent to where at some point you would be like, hey, this is what I want to do for a living at some point, then there's probably no need in playing. I mean, because that's what you want to do. You love playing, and we love doing this. Like, we love doing this, and we're not getting paid. So I mean,
no.
But we love doing what we do because it's to help other people. And I always said that I wanted to be in a situation where I could help, other people do things. And like, this is a platform to help other people get their music out there, get other people on board. So, I mean, it's good for, it makes me feel a little bit better about doing it for nothing, because I'm helping, myself too, but I'm just saying I'm helping other people as well. So it's not just a one-way rodeo. Everybody's going to skyrocket together. So, I mean,
right. Well,
that's the whole plan. It's like,
that's important. I mean, and I think that's the right attitude. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I played a lot of free shows, but I played.
I've wrestled free, in the beginning too. But at some point, you gotta know your worth. I mean,
right, exactly. And I don't. And let me. I mean, I want to make sure I'm clear to anyone who views this. I mean, I don't think you shouldn't play a free show.
Right.
I just don't think you should continue to play them after you've gotten your outfit to the level that should require payment. That's all I'm saying.
You're saying, like, if you show up somewhere and you're playing with these people and they're playing for free and they're like, how long y'all been together? Oh, we've been playing together for 3 years. Okay, well, motherfucker, you should be getting paid. I mean, it's like, you should be playing together for 3 years for free. I mean,
especially if they sound good too, right? I mean, especially, I mean, it's hard. I mean, you can't level up as a band without funds. You got to get funds to keep moving. You got to make money to record. You've got to make money to buy equipment. You've got to make money. You just got to make money. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it.
And it's another thing, like, we wanted to do this show is because we wanted to show the realism of trying to make it as a band, because I don't think that's out there enough. I think people just see this as all of a luxurious lifestyle that all these bands have. And, honestly, there's no band that we've interviewed on here that does not have a day job. So, I mean, it's like, that's real. That's the realism of being in a band. It's like, you have to have a day job at this point, because you're not up there with, Metallica's and, priests and all them. I mean, of course, we've not been doing it for 40 years either, but I'm just saying.
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, back then it was a whole lot different because, those guys got their fame at 19 and 20 years old, but I don't think the music business was as saturated as it is now either.
No, it's really saturated. And I mean, like streaming, like it's a requirement, right? I mean, you can't expect to be known and get like any national or global recognition if you don't get it out. It's a great medium to get your music heard, but you make nothing. I mean, for every 400 streams, you make $1.
Right.
Yeah, we've talked about the math. We've talked about the math
ridiculous
on this show before. Yeah.
Well, I think the thing that pisses us off is like they go out and they say, "Oh, well, we get for every play you get 0.007 cents or whatever," and then you come out at the year going, "Oh, we made $13 billion, motherfucker!" Like, pay these fucking people that are putting their shit on your site. Then, like,
and it was like, and it was like, okay, so we're gonna do CDs, right? And it was like, should we do CDs? I don't know. I mean, is anyone gonna buy CDs anymore when they can just go on Spotify and get to everything? So no, people won't buy CDs, to be fair. But that's why we made sure to give an incentive in there, right? We put a QR code that gets you into all this behind the scenes, demos and videos and stuff that you will not get on any public. We won't put it on our YouTube. This is stuff that's only going to be there if you buy it and get that QR code. So I think, I'm giving our secrets away here, but I think you make money off CDs, man. Still, like CDs we sell for like $7, and the production cost of a CD and the batches we got. I mean, we can make money if we can sell those, and we got awesome artwork done. We got this cool stuff on the inside, so you can get to all. We're giving you more if you buy that. We're still giving you more. How much more do you want? You want me to cut my fucking wrist, people? Buy the music. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, we're huge proponents of buying the music, and Jason and I are still and of course I have Spotify. I'm not gonna lie, I have Spotify, but I pay for it. So I've got a paid subscription, but I mean, Jason and I are still tactile, physical copy, liner notes. We are huge about. We have talked, I don't know how many times on this show about how heavy metal has the best cover art of any music genre, fucking hands down, and it's not even goddamn close about how much better cover art is in heavy metal than it just. It's not even close. So
even like death metal, which we don't really care for, the fucking art on death metal albums are so fucking great.
It's phenomenal. Like I say, it's not even close. But I mean, we're still physical copy. I've got a whole shelf of CDs downstairs. So I still
I bought 10 CDs this past month. So I mean, it's like, and I got Slipknot on pre-order. I got Lamb of God on pre-order. So I mean, I'm still buying CDs. So I'll pick up, and usually we seen a band called Hellfire open up for Death Angel, which I never heard the band before until I heard them live, and then I bought their CD at the show, and that's how much I liked them. I'm like, dude, I like this band. I'm gonna buy the CD. So because the thing is we got to realize as fans, this is how you guys make a living. So as a fan, if I go to a show and I see Ashes Rain, I'm like, man, these fucking guys kick ass. And you got a CD on the table, I'm buying it. I mean, that's just how I am. I mean,
people have been really good to us, man. When we play these shows, they've been great. I mean, the people have been super receptive, and we appreciate it so much. Like, I don't know if they realize just how much it means for them to come over to that merch booth after a show and like talk and buy some stuff. It's incredible, and it helps us continue doing it. But for the same reason you guys are just talking about cover art, I'm a huge vinyl fan, man, because it's even bigger.
Right. Yeah.
And better, right? So I mean, I don't buy CDs anymore. I'll be honest, but I buy vinyls like crazy still. And like I was at the record store day, I guess last year, maybe it was. So they do that every year. So the vinyl record store day, and like all the Dio reissues had come out. So I've got all.
Oh yeah.
I didn't open them yet. I'm like, oh shit, I want to hear them, but I know the songs, right? I don't need to hear them.
That's right.
Right.
But dude, I mean, they look awesome because the entire album is done on the actual vinyl now. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's. I mean, I love the art. I mean, and then that's why we went to a professional like Manfish Incorporated. She's done a ton of like art for bunches of like album covers. You can look her up on Instagram and stuff, but she's done tons of album covers for like pro bands. So we're like, we love all this. We want to give people that. I mean, I want to give people what I love about this music, right? And I couldn't do it if I went to my Etch-a-Sketch and made our cover art. Right. So we went out and paid for that too, man. And it was awesome because she gave us all the like, you know, we got all the concept art, which is awesome. It's all in black and white. She did it in like watercolor or something. It's a killer. So we've got all the originals, man, and then we scanned them. So that's in I think that's in the directory too, like for our like all the extra shit you get that's in the CD. If you take that QR code, it's got all the concept art too that went into the album cover. So I mean, that's what I love about it, and that's what this music is and can be if people are willing to put in that time and effort, right? I mean, and it takes money though. It takes money.
I wanted to say 1,000 people just logged off and went and looked up Etch-a-Sketch because they didn't know what it was. But
yeah, probably.
I'm
gonna do that. That's the next album cover now. It's gonna be an Etch-a-Sketch logo.
That would be fucking hilarious.
It would.
Yeah.
If nothing else, do it for the next single just as a goof.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
That's a John O'Connor move if I ever seen one right there. So
yeah, actually it is.
So that's what shit he would do. But you was talking about that I was going to ask you about who did your album art. So I'm kind of glad you brought that up. So.
Man, I can't remember her name specifically, but once again, Ryan does all of our art and media stuff.
I love the artwork on that EP. It was really, really good. So and I love the Ashes Rain, how it's like out. You know how it's designed anyway. It was pretty cool.
Yeah,
just on the card, like even the AR on the card was kind of like, oh wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's why like it's important, I think, if you don't have people outside like engineering this for you, like a third party, because you're not signed and whatnot, you got to have people that you can depend on. We're really, really lucky. Because this is what Ryan does. He's done graphic art and coding forever. So all the website design and graphic art stuff is all on him. Me, I mean, I'm a network architect. So, I mean, I'm very IT oriented. So a lot of just all these social media platforms and just coming up with ideas for Ryan to code, like the QR stuff that we talked about earlier, like getting the geolocation tags and stuff. I conceptualize these things, but I can't code it. So I hand it off to Ryan. He does that. And it frees me up too, man, because like anything art, like he'll send it to me and I'll be like, oh, that looks awesome. He's like, well, what do you think? I'm like, art's your department, bro. I think it looks sick. Go for it. Let me continue writing songs and stuff like that, right? You need to have that ability to just defer things that are important, of course, to the band, but defer them to somebody else. Because if you try to do everything as one person, it's, you know, you're going to have it's not going to be a very, interesting band, right? It would be too much of that one person. And I am not that cool. I'm pretty cool, but I'm not that cool.
So just so you know, Ashes Rain is not only a band. They actually design QR codes. And then if it breaks, you can call Vinny and he'll fix it.
That's right. That's right.
That's right. That's right.
They're their own geek squad. So
that's right.
There you go. I mean, they get half of them are anyway, for sure.
There you go.
Manfish. There we go. Look at there.
Jeremy's in there. He told us what he is. Hey, Jeremy. Nice to see you here, my friend.
Jill Colbert over at Manfish Incorporated. That's right.
Cool.
Look, Jeremy knows more about this band than I know about this band at this point.
Well, hey, thanks, Jeremy, for logging in. I know you follow those guys, but we'll be happy for you to follow us as well. So.
Yeah, thanks for checking out the show. Absolutely.
That's kind of like where we got a lot of our followers from, is from other bands too. So, you know, like Sepsis brought a lot of people over to Metalheads Unite. We appreciate that. And, you know, and like Eyes of the Living brought some people. So, I mean, it's, you know,
Devil did
like
too.
I said, like, it's so crazy how like a lot of the bands that we've interviewed are actually active in our groups. So it's kind of like, oh, wow, that's kind of cool. But
I mean, finding out about you guys, I mean, definitely. I mean,
thank you, sir.
I'm going to be active too. I mean, it's the same thing I was saying, right? It's one thing to have what you have, but I didn't know about it, right? Until
Right.
we made this connection. Now that we
Yeah.
have this connection, I want to know more about it. I want to log in and watch you guys do this with other guys, man. I want to learn from other guys. And that's the best thing about this is that here I am saying all these things tonight about how we run, but I guarantee you're going to have another band on here and someone else does something differently. And I'm like, oh man, that sounds like
that's
way
what
of
we were talking
doing
about earlier. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we were talking about earlier, how cool it was. Like we just, I think our last interview was Source of Rage, which, they're out Germany, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And man, they're a thrash metal band, which just go kind of right up our alley because we're, we love thrash. So, and like it was so cool because they were in there, and then we had Devil in the chat talk from Scotland. So it was kind of cool to have. It was like we were all around the world in one
awesome.
view. So it's
we literally were. Yeah, we were talking to Germany with Scotland chiming in the chat, and and I think our buddy Octavio from Mexico was even in the chat that day too.
Yeah, I think he was in that day. Yeah. So it's pretty crazy.
But it basically ends up being one indirect collaboration because So, but it pays off for everybody. It ends up being like one humongous symbiotic relationship in a way.
Yeah,
that's a cool thing too. Is like we talked to all these bands, but say Source of Rage wound up coming to the States, and then for some odd reason you guys hook up and wind up being on a tour together. I'd be like, holy shit, we talked to both of them. That's the cool thing about doing this is just like seeing in like we speaking of Eyes of the Living. When we talked to them, they were mainly in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area, and they didn't do a lot down south. But they're going to actually be, like an hour away from us here in October. So it's kind of cool that we actually going to be able to see those guys live. So
that's right.
So it's cool. And
that's
the reason why I asked you guys if you played at Blue Ridge, because if you did and I missed it, I was going to be pissed off because I missed a lot of shit there, unfortunately. But
we're working towards it, right? I mean, it's one of those situations with Blue Ridge is like the previous years, like you can get in there, but they wanted like money. They wanted like $1,500, and I'm not paying. I mean, even though it's a great festival, and yes, the odds are you're gonna like you'll get a handful of people that would be into you, man. But there's so much like high quality, high level stuff there. It's hard to like have anyone just come check you out that who doesn't know you either. They might overhear you if you're killing it, right? So it's not something that I think is extremely beneficial right now. I think we keep coming back to it, man. It's community. It's getting out, playing good shows with good bands, meeting guys like you. Meeting guys like Jeremy, who's out there. He's been awesome, man. Just helping us, like, just pushing us and helping us meet other people and stuff. That's how you get this thing to grow. You find people who like what you do, but then you develop actual friendships because there's cool fucking people out there. And I find that most of these people are cool, and it's amazing for me to like go out and play a show with a band that I really respect, and then like get to meet them and talk to them, and they're like, wow, you guys are like really, and they'll say something like, wow, your vocals are great, and I'm like, oh, like it makes me feel like I can continue. There's some days it's like, I don't know if that's really true, you're just being nice. But
so have you guys had the opportunity to open up for any big bands yet, or
we opened up, like, not with me on vocals, man, funny enough, because there was this big pay-to-play thing going on back 5-6 years ago when we were active with the other guys. And you could, honestly, dude, you can get on anything if you're willing to pay. I mean, they'll throw out, like, we'll get offers and stuff to do stuff, and it's like, you just have to spend, you have to pay for this much or whatever, or you got to sell this many tickets and you can open for X. And, it's just not worth it. It's not. So we did open, like I said, we opened for Insomnium. We opened for Dark Tranquility. Back in the day, though. We had a show with, who was it, man? It was one of those, Warrell Dane was singing for him, dude, at the time.
Nevermore?
It wasn't Nevermore. It was the other band. What was the other band? Something with S. I can't remember. Not Sabotage. It was the other one. I can't remember. It was before he died, unfortunately. Well, not unfortunately for him, but so we have played with like international bands, but anyone could do it. To be fair, anyone can if you're willing to pay to get the slot. If you're willing, it's like a bidding war, right? Whoever's willing to pay to get in the slot can do it. I refuse to do that. I will continue to make
good for you. I mean, you shouldn't have to. I mean,
I will continue to make music, record music, and put it out. And I do, like, here's another tip for all you bands out there. I think Facebook ads are actually useful. I think I use targeted ads. Like I said earlier, I'm not going to do a tour until I build up an audience in a certain region. So I spend X amount of money a month to target specific locations where I want to do a tour. And I throw Facebook ads that run that connect you to our Spotify right away. Now, the thing about ads is you won't click it the first time you see it. You just won't. You're like, oh, what's that? It's annoying. But when you see it like the 10th time, you start to like, look, I keep seeing this. Maybe if I'm into metal, and they are, because if you learn how to run these algorithms and run these ads, you get to like specify things, right? I know that people who like Trivium seem to like us, right? I know people who like Avenged Sevenfold seem to like us. These are things I've heard and found out. So I target people who like those bands in these regions that I would like to build an audience in to do a tour. That's where I think people should spend money. I don't think you should spend money going on a tour without doing this ahead of time. I would, and you can see all the data, by the way, and ingest it, and take that data and pull it into a database. If you're savvy enough, you can pay someone else to do it if you need to, but like learn these skills. You can like take this data, import it to a database, and it will you'll have a nice little spreadsheet that shows you how many people in what cities that you've targeted have liked and followed your stuff. And once you get it right,
it's crazy. That was one of my favorite things to do with sequels. So
exactly. Well, me being like my career has been in IT for years, and I've done all this stuff for other companies to make them rich. And I'm just putting this interest, I'm putting these skills to work now for me to help me build my band up and get us, when we do go on a tour, people will actually come see us, because I know that there's going to be at least, I'm waiting till there's 50 to 100. I'm not sure what the magic number is, but once I have 50 to 100 people in every one of the cities that I have targeted, that is when I will start to call and set up a tour that I will do in-house. I'll reach out to these people directly in these clubs, and I'll set up something, and I can expect that a handful of people are going to show up at that point, because I've done the work ahead of time to build the audience. This idea that you can get an audience by just traveling to unknown places and playing in front of unknown people is ridiculous. And I'm sorry, guys, young guys, kids out there who got this pipe dream that you're going to just tour and you're going to be famous. You're going to go broke. And mom and dad were pretty pissed about all the money they gave you at the end of the day. So you use some of the tips, man. I mean, you can do what I'm talking about. I mean, I think the minimum is $1 a day to run these type of things on Facebook. And that's where we have seen actual growth, where you can see actual people, real people who are interested in what you want them to be interested in, going to your stuff and liking it and following it. And of course, the biggest thing we did was the Blue Ridge thing, dude. We handed out 1,600 cards there, and we saw, I think it was about a 10% hit rate on it in the first week. So
that's good.
It's not bad. I mean, when you think of that, it's like still only 160 people, but that's 160 new people.
I'm going to say this from a personal standpoint. So handing out a card like that, you hand me the card, I stick it in my back pocket. When I get to the hotel, guess what? I'm reaching in my back pocket. Oh yeah, Asher's Ring. But if you handed me a flyer, or something, say the size of this envelope, most people are just going to trash can, man, because there's plenty of trash cans right there. So I think you had the right idea by doing a card. I mean, honestly,
I do too. Actually, yeah, because actually.
My main thing was I wanted to have a T-shirt for Metalheads Unite when I went there, so that I could actually promote the show wearing the T-shirt, so people would actually see that and go, "Oh, what's that?" And then I could actually talk to people about it. But it didn't. I didn't happen, and that was on me because I didn't talk to my T-shirt guy in time. but maybe next time. But not probably not at Blue Ridge. But I've been screwed by them 2 years in a row, man. But yeah, it's like because like I said, the thing that I think what they need to do there is put some of the bands on, where they're not overlapping as much. Like say if you guys play to have you guys there, and then another band that they're not so familiar with on a stage, like kind of over here going on like 5 minutes later. That way you're getting the full event of the festival. I wouldn't even be so mad as if they cut the bands down to 100 and did that, where I could actually be able to see everybody and not cut into something that I want to see. And I understand they're probably doing that, for they say, oh, we got 170 bands, or they probably looking at the money that they have, left over from like this year. How many bands can we hire next year, or whatever the case. But to me, if I'm running something like that, I want it to be. To me, it's not. They call it the fans festival, but to me, you're pissing off more fans than you're helping. Mainly because. And it's not the band's fault because it's the long waits for traveling to and from the venue.
Yeah.
That was the thing.
I mean,
it's like
they got it.
To me, like it happened last year. They had it last year, and then it's like, oh, we're this year we've got it figured out and all this stuff. And then I spend the first 3 days, 2.5, 3 hours trying to get to the venue. Obviously, you didn't figure it out. So we sent them an email and they sent us one back. So we're going to have park it on campus. I'm like, dude, you've done burnt me twice. Like, why should I buy into that again? And it's so crazy because it's got, usually those lineups are so stacked too. It's like, it's hard to say no to. It's kind of like,
I mean, it's a great, I mean, the fact that that's in our backyard, we're really lucky. I mean, it takes us
right
an hour and a half away, man.
Yeah, and like, to me, if you're an hour, 2 hours away and you have to deal with that, that's fine. I drove 10 hours. For me to have to, and last year it was 8. So, driving 8 to 10 hours to miss half of what I came to see is not good.
Yeah.
Like,
I agree. I mean, I think it's going to continue to grow. It's awesome festival. I mean, I think I would love to play it, but I think this year they did change it around to where they have talent buying happening now. So they raised the bar a bit. Last year it was bands. The year before this one, it was bands who were willing to pay to get on type of deal. And I was like, I'm just not interested in doing that.
Right.
Like they send you like the initial stuff and like send your music and all. And it's like, are you willing to pay a $1,500 some odd fee to play? I'm like, never mind. No, not willing to do that.
Speaking of that, it's kind of what got me. I was going to say something about that earlier when you were talking about these venues that promote or hire these bands that aren't that good. It's like, do you not hear like any of their music before you say, yeah, come on down? It's like, even if it's free, I mean, you still don't want to have somebody in there that's not. I mean, to me, if you promote it, like if I'm putting on Ashes Rain, just like I promoted this thing with your music on a Facebook story, I put your music, your album cover, all that stuff on there to promote the interview. It's like that's showing you that I believe in what I'm doing because I'm putting you out there and saying, hey, this is an example of what you hear from these guys. You should check it out. So if I'm putting somebody on there that sounds like they're farting in a tin can, then nobody's going to want to come and listen to that shit. It's like,
it's hard. It's just harder, I think, to get. I don't know, man. It's a strange situation, right? Like there are bands that they are quality. Like they put on phenomenal show. They sound good. You can tell they're well practiced. But even some of them are in the state of mind where it's like, well, you don't get paid to play. You do it because you love it, and that's just the way it is. And we got to kind of break out of that mindset. It's never going to change if that's the case. Yeah, sure. You can hire as many crappy bands as you want that will not get your venue filled, which at the end of the day, we all know what this is. You want people in there so they drink alcohol and buy food so you can make more money, right? You're not making money off ticket sales, right? But you're not going to get more people without higher quality stuff. And And I get it. Metal is hard. Metal is difficult because you're not going to be able to go to a metal show and have tons of people in there just dancing and talking, right? I mean, it's a high energy, high volume show. You need metal fans to be there. But it's so hard to even, like I said, even get people who really love metal a lot of times in the local area to come out and support the local scene because, I mean, I've been told, like, I went to some of these metal shows and it was just really it didn't sound good. It wasn't my kind of, it wasn't my kind of metal type of thing, but it's not that it wasn't your type of metal. It's that it just didn't translate. Like, you can listen to some of these bands recordings and they actually are good, but it doesn't translate at all live in a listenable way or enjoyably listenable way. A lot of it is just like theatrics, which is awesome. I mean, bands definitely need to be exciting to watch, but that comes second to playing the music. You gotta have the music sounding good, right? So there are definitely bands in different genres, like the progressive metal scene, man. I don't know, maybe it's just like this all the time in progressive metal, but those are where the bands sound phenomenal, like all the time. When you go out to see progressive metal genre bands, I can pretty much assume that these guys are all very, very like serious musicians. But with that comes serious gear, serious attitudes, and it translates and it sounds good. I myself still prefer going to progressive metal shows more than anything else for that reason alone. Going to just a metal show, it's a mixed bag. It really is. And we are interesting because we can kind of play with both. We can play with just we can play with a death metal band. We can play with this metalcore bands. We can play with just metal bands. We can play with prog bands. We get to we have the luxury, I guess, of being able to kind of pick and choose what songs in the set we're going to play. Because we have there's probably 4, I think, still that we play in the set today that have not been released, that we've been playing for a while, that we're just waiting for the full length on. So we got the heavier ones, we got the softer ones. We can really decide, okay, this crowd's going to be more tame. Let's go with the less screamy ones for these guys. Because at the end of the day, we just want to get people to buy our stuff too, right? We need to make the money.
I think if Light the Torch can open up for Gwar, y'all don't have nothing to worry about. So.
Oh wow! Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Yeah, no
you can definitely catch like those bands that like are really different at shows, but those aren't shows where, I mean, with Gwar, I mean that's funny because they're always going to be a highly sold out show. You got people will go to those shows for the craziness alone, right? So they're going to be packed. But when you're talking local scene is harder to bring people out unless they just really respect the band, they really know the band. And even sometimes then it's not nearly like as many people as I think there should be. Like Jeremy is out there. I met him through a band that I love that's out of the Northern Virginia area, Iris Divine. Like, I have been a fan of this band for a very, very long time. Phenomenal band. And I went out to see these guys. I'm thinking, oh, they're back, because they had been on like a brief hiatus. They got back out there, and I'm like, this place is going to be packed with amazing, like, this is going to be so great. They didn't have the crowd they deserve, man. And I don't know how you get them there. How do you get the people to actually show up when it's so easy to do this. It's so easy to get online and find things to do online and play the video games and watch the Netflix and scroll through your phone. People don't have as much incentive to leave the house anymore for entertainment. So it's really quite difficult in the live music scene to actually make it work, man. We do it because we love it, yes. But
I think people being stuck in their house for so long too, they just kind of become accustomed to that.
That could be part of it.
It's not a.
I think it would be the opposite. Like, I thought it would boomerang. Like, oh man, everyone's tired to come out, man. But Blue Ridge shows you.
I guess it did. I guess it did in a way, but not as much as it should have.
Right. Like, Blue Ridge shows you that there are people in festivals like that. There are people who will come out for live music. And dude, we were blown away by how receptive people were. like to us handing these cards out, like I was like, man, this is gonna be, people are gonna go like get pissed at me for doing this. Like Ryan was like, no, just he's done sales in the past, and he's like, it's fine, just just walk up and ask them. And it's like, okay.
You want to hear some new music? Hell yeah! That's the first thing I said when I handed out. You want to hear some new music? Fuck yeah!
He was very good at it. He was very, very good at this. But it definitely shows like that was a great strategy to take. I'm glad we did it. I'm really glad because it made a connection like this, right? But how do you get people to go from now listening on Spotify, checking us out, to actually taking the time to come to a show? That's the next nut we're trying to crack, right?
So
how do we convert you?
So if I'm not mistaken, every member of the band was there, right?
So actually, no, it's just Ryan and myself.
Oh, it was just you two. Okay, I just remember there was more than you two handing out stuff. So that's why I was kind of like,
I don't know. I don't know who else was there actually who would have been handing our stuff. It might have been Ryan on previous days with other people because he had the 4-day passes. I only showed up with him on Sunday.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay, gotcha. Yeah, because I know like the first day that they handed it to me, it was like there was like 3 or 4 of them there, and they handed them stuff out, and I thought, oh, well, this is pretty cool. But
that's street team, man. We're big on street team. Like people. It all comes back to my career and like what I do for a living and stuff that has taught me like the more you can automate, because I got into automation a while back, right? I mean, a lot of stuff traditionally has been, sit down at the keyboard and do every job in the moment. Not anymore. We have, you script things out and you just run jobs automated and it just manages that stuff for you while you're able to do more design and stuff and learning, right? Well, it's the same thing with this. It's like the band should be growing when I'm not putting actual time. My personal time should not have to be put into everything. It should grow by having things doing it like the Facebook ads that run every month. They re-trigger every month and they change locations. It kind of keeps spreading out is how I have it set up. So it's going up the East Coast now. Once it reaches the top, it will start to spread. But that happens automatically. I set it up. I knew how much money we want to put towards it. The band fund, we put in money, every one of us monthly, into the band fund, and it gets used, and we itemize things and like, hey, this is what we're spending on advertising this month. These are things that if you utilize will make you a fan at 2 a.m. in the morning while you're sleeping, right? As long as you have everything set up and you're just pushing it out there. And that's the trick, is trying to leverage all this good, cool stuff that we have with technology and internet while also not getting stuck doing it all the time and being in Facebook and scrolling for, dude, I am bad. Like I can get on there and scroll for like 2-3 hours straight. Like I won't be able to hear anything anyone's saying to me because I'm like, oh, what's this band doing? Who's that? Oh man, that's cool. Oh, that guy's got a sweet guitar. I mean, it's just nuts what I can get into. So I try to stay away from it now, but leveraging tools. I mean, no band is just going to get big these days by playing the same show in the same city to the same crowd all the time. If you think you are, then and if you do, please let me know because I'm doing it wrong. But I do think we are seeing slow, steady, consistent growth. Through our like Spotify out, like they give you all the data monthly. I mean, we're seeing it slow. It's real. It's slow. It's not like massive. I don't want to see one day I've got 150,000 listeners and then 30 days later I'm back to 200 because that's not real. That's on playlists and stuff like that. So we're trying to just keep it slow.
And I think that's one of the things that hurt us a little bit because we're on so many platforms. So like when we get our numbers, it's from everything. It's not just from
I don't think that's
Twitch
a problem,
YouTube.
Man.
All right. Well, I mean, it is to get people on here because I got certain bands that look at stuff and like, oh, well, you only have like 5 followers. I'm like, yeah, because we don't like just advertise there. We're everywhere. It's like
right.
And like,
I think that reach though is important. I mean, that's awesome that you can do that. And our distribution does that too in a way. Like, but see, with you, you're live right now on all these things. People can like go to these platforms and see that this is happening right now in real time, right? I would imagine.
Yep.
Right. That's not the way it works with music. I mean, I'm on all the platforms too, but you can't find it unless you look for it.
Right.
So that's why we need things like this, where we can get the name out there and people are like, okay, this guy sounds like a complete dick, but I'm going to check it out anyway. You said the name enough. Let's try it.
Cool. All right, man. Well, I guess we've been doing this for about almost 3 hours now. So
yeah, we're going on 2.5. But so we know it's pushing midnight over there in Virginia. So we'll try to wrap this sucker up. But before we let Vinny go, I'm gonna try to share. I'm gonna try to do a screen share real quick. I don't know how the screen share is gonna work with 3 people, but I'm gonna try something real quick because I want everyone to get a look at all of the Ashes Rain socials on here, so everyone will know where to find you guys. So I'm gonna try this. Here we go. We're gonna try this.
It's okay to call us by the short name, the Asses.
Asses.
All right. So
Asses Rain.
So here's what we're gonna do. We got this right here. All right. So
look, they have more hair.
Yeah, so there we go. So we got you guys' email address. I don't know what this first one is. What is this for?
Oh, that's our
Discord. Discord. Okay. Yeah. I didn't recognize the little
we
icon
used to actually
there,
have one of those. So the VLP did.
We built the crap out of the thing. I mean, jump in there, guys, because it's fun. We're active in there. We talk all the time. It's actually, I would love to grow that thing out, but it's fun.
Yeah. And then of course you got the Instagram, you got the Facebook, you got the Twitter, and Vinny, you may end up hating me for this, but I wanted to show this screen for 2 reasons. Obviously, I wanted to get all of the socials out there. I also wanted to show everybody what is this going on.
Oh yeah, we had a lot of hair at one point.
He does
like that. That is a lot of
rock star this man. He rock starred this man. He come out and pull this shit off.
Yeah, I have some very curly hair, and it was just a bear to take care of.
All right, so yeah, I had an ulterior motive to showing the the screen with the socials on it. So, but you got Vinny.
Like it's so crazy. Like one of the stories that I always tell, like from being a young metalhead, I was at a Metallica show, like 94ish, I guess, and like we were all out there, long hair, head banging our ass off or whatever. Well, the show went on because like Alice in Chains were on. Lane Staley was on one of his rehab trips. So, yes, so they didn't get to play. So Metallica made up for it by playing like 2.5 hours. So during all that time, they got into some B-side shit we had never heard. And then we look over and there's like these preppy looking dudes with, the fades and all this shit, and they're just like, they're like lipping and singing all this shit. I'm like, how the fuck do they know this shit? It's like, so you never judge a book by its cover. That's for sure. So
no, you don't. No, you don't.
Yeah.
But yeah, so if you could catch, you can also listen to Ashes Rain. The whole EP is up on Spotify.
Yes,
I don't know. Do you have anything on YouTube as well, or?
Yep, we got a YouTube channel.
Yeah, they got all the stuff.
Yeah, there you go. Yep.
They got all the stuff we do.
Ashes Rain, yeah. Ashes Rain. They're easy to find, you guys. And like I said earlier in the show, I mean the EP is 4 tracks long. You got 20. Everybody's got 21 minutes to take some time to check out 4 great songs.
Yeah. You put your headphones in your ear while you're mowing the yard and cut out the lawnmower and listen to some good shit. So.
Yeah. I wanted to give my overall impression of the EP real quick because I hadn't gotten to put in my 2 cents as far as that goes yet. I don't know. I wanted to give you a little bit of feedback to see if what my opinion of like the EP is compared to some of the other feedback you've gotten, because I liked the way it was set up. Like you say, you came out charging hard and you kind of tailed it off with a little bit more of the ballady stuff at the end, which I did like. I got a little bit of, now we've been talking about Lamb of God and Randy Blythe off and on during the show. So it's funny that that's kind of come up, because that was actually, you know, from a guitar standpoint, as far as the leads with the leading off, I got a little bit of a Lamb of God vibe with the leads before the vocals kicked in on that very first song. And then, you know, and then when, you know, when it went into the second track, when the guitars kicked in before the vocals took off, I was like, this got a little bit of a thrashy kind of Shadows Fall vibe to it. I've been a huge Shadows Fall fan forever. So that was kind of a little bit of the vibe I got. And it was funny enough that we actually got to talk about Werrell Dane for a minute and Nevermore, which, by the way, the other band he was in was Sanctuary. I forgot too, so I looked it up. But anyway, as far as Werrell Dane is concerned, I actually kind of get when the third track started up, I actually got a little bit of a Nevermore vibe, as far as like I Still Believe in Nothing. I don't know if you know that song. By Nevermore.
I might don't know it for sure.
Well, that was actually the vibe I got from it. You know, because of the way that the song starts off with a little bit more of a melodic ballady type song, that when it gets into a little bit more of the choruses and the later part of the song, it picks up with the heaviness, but the tempo doesn't exactly pick up. So those were the vibes I got with the first three tracks. And it was actually kind of ironic that Jason had mentioned talking about Skid Row earlier, because I didn't realize it until he said it. I was like, holy shit, he's right. So, but because the first impressions that I got from each track, and then when Jason mentions talking about Skid Row and the Slave to the Grind album and everything like that, I was like, wow, that is an excellent tie-in too. Because I had my own way that I looked at each song, but then when Jason gave his impression, I was like, even though I had Lamb of God, Shadows Fall, Nevermore, you know, some of the, you know, obviously newer bands than Skid Row. When he said it, I also heard it at the same time, in addition to the impressions that I got.
Yeah. So I've heard Shadows Fall a few times. I never, and I'm sad to say it, I've never actually listened to them too much. I need to go check it out more. But I've heard, a few people have said Shadows Fall. We've heard Trivium quite a bit. I
can see that.
And
I can too. Yeah, I can see it.
I think, funny enough, people think because when I'm out there on stage, I'm usually in like, you know, I got like a cutoff and like a vest that I wear, and they're like, you look like them a little bit. They say you do stuff, and you also are the lead guitar player and rhythm. So it's like they say we have a lot of that. I once again never really listened to Trivium too much until recently. Just when people start saying it. And I did go on and see him doing Twitch stuff, and the guy's phenomenal. So I become sort of a fan, but it's funny, man. I just write what I write. It's really interesting that a lot of the stuff has odd times in it that you don't quite hear. And that's because of the Rush influence, I would say, because Rush was one of those bands to me that I love that they did odd time. And I'm a very theoretical type player. I love the stuff in the nitty gritty. Like I like looking into it, but I love Rush in the fact that they do tons of that, but you can't really tell. It just flows. So I do a lot of that sort of thing. But I think that's something key to take away, man. I love hearing what people like think and the bands that we kind of remind them of in ways. But at the end of the day, I think the big takeaway is you should write what you feel, man. Like I don't really go in with any predetermined notions of what I'm doing. I come up with riffs and I come up with songs and I plot them out, and it sounds good to me. And I hope that what sounds good to me resonates with other people. And I think that's the only way. I think there's too many bands, unfortunately, who try way too hard to sound like another band. And you end up with these bands that are just very recyclable. Like I can hear a song one after another from totally different bands, and it sounds like the same band a lot of times to me. I don't think we have that problem because I just kind of write all sorts of different things. Like I've got the ballady things. I've got, I've got the third song that should have stayed clean the whole time and nice. But I was like, no, fuck that.
No, actually, I love that because
Yeah,
like,
I did too.
I always love those songs that kind of do that to you. They're just like,
well,
and they go, rah, and I was like, oh shit, I wouldn't expect that. It's like
it does catch you off guard.
And I think it adds a flavor. It adds a different flavor. So
it nods back to things like Cemetery Gates and stuff with Pantera.
Right.
I grew up listening to stuff like that. So to me, it's not odd to start out super clean and melodic and high pitch even vocals, man. Because I mean, back in the day, Phil Anselmo would do some ridiculously high falsetto vocals and stuff. So to me, it's just it's something that I wanted to do, and it sounded good when I demoed it out. And hopefully people like it. I mean, to me, that's my favorite song.
So this is the thing with that, and me saying kind of the Skid Row likeness of it or whatever was it wasn't that it's I can't really like say like it's not like it's something like out of the ordinary really for us because we kind of grew up in that time period where we know that. I think to people that grew up in like the late 90s, early 2000s are like, wow, this is like different. This is like different. And they don't know how to like respond to it. Cause like to them, like this sound is probably something totally new. And like, which is cool because I think that it's good to that we're, I talk about this a lot because I listen to a lot of like music and like I'll listen to an album and I'm like, man, this is so fucking 80s, man. And I think it's cool that these newer bands are trying to keep that sound alive. And and because you got a lot of combinations between, thrash and death metal or whatever, these people are combining all that stuff, making something different. But I got a visitor. Sorry,
I was about to say, I can see the top of a head there.
Yeah, but it's like I said though, it's like it's not nothing new to us, but it's something that maybe more along the lines of it's been forgotten. That type of music has been kind of forgotten.
My idea with it. My idea with it. I mean, if I'll be real transparent. Hi.
You're crashing my show.
Oh, it's all good. I love the little ones. I got a guy in there. He'd be in here if I didn't have a locked door.
This is my only grandchild. So
it's funny you say that because early on, I think my train of thought was, I want to make something that is modern, right? I want to do modern metal, but I personally am a fan of traditional old school metal. Yeah. You will catch me mostly listening to Dio, Priest. I love Def Leppard, Skid Row, all these bands. You very rarely hear me listening to other things that are like really new. I do like Killswitch Engage. I do like some Lamb of God and all, but I mean Megadeth earlier on. So I took that idea and I was like, let's see if we can make it work. I'm gonna write stuff. I mean, there are like licks in this stuff that is very like Def Leppard-y. There's definitely some Skid Row progressions in there, but I'm screaming over them and they weren't.
Yeah, right.
So I think it's enough of the modern feel that people, kids, that are into modern metal are digging it. But there's also guys like 30 to 50 who hear it and are like, I like this. Like, I didn't expect to like it because this guy's screaming, but all of a sudden now he's doing this other thing, like Always and Forever. And it's like, this is reminiscent of 80s metal, right? I mean, so I'm happy with it. I'm happy with it, with the way it's developing, and we're going to continue that. I mean, we're going to continue to have like a gambit of stuff. There's going to be more stuff that's just 100% heavy vocals. There'll be more stuff that's 100% clean vocals and stuff in the middle. But the full length is going to be amazing. The full length is going to be great. The cover single we're doing is going to be heavy. So
cool.
We'll see how it comes out.
And that's what I said. Like, I think to me, like one of the best bands to do covers is Nonpoint, because they always put their own twist on the actual song, and it's like, you know, I think "In the Air Tonight" is probably one of the best covers that I've ever heard them do. And
sure, I heard that.
A lot of people have covered that song, but I don't think anybody's ever covered it as good as Nonpoint. Like
they haven't.
It's just amazing.
Yeah, they
haven't. And I think what you're saying is kind of like in that same, you know, aspect, is you're trying to make it something of your own while covering a song, which is awesome, because I think too many people try to like make it like the original when it should be trying to make it their original. You know, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
So I can't wait to hear it. Honestly, I really can't. And I think Chris
so
would probably, and I think Chris would probably agree with me. I think you guys would do really well in the Nashville market.
I think so.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I absolutely think so. I don't know what your database translate to, but hopefully you can kind of put Nashville as a target and see how the market grows. So
and there's plenty of venues here. So
we're definitely looking to get. I mean, that's not. We're happy to come out that far. We're looking down north in South Carolina and up toward Pennsylvania and Jersey, which is where I'm from. So yeah, we want to get around. Yeah, we want to get around. But yeah, I think we're approachable enough, right? And we're keeping it that way. This band by design is made to be listenable, whereas other projects in the past that I was part of were kind of like, I'm just going to do straight up progressive metal, 12, 15 minute songs. But that's hard to get people into, man. This is a little more mainstream without being completely mainstream and making me feel like I gave up my soul, right? So,
right, yeah.
But it's catchy.
I get that.
It's got some catchy stuff to it. So
she's trying out for vocals here. So.
Yeah. Good lyrics.
There we go. She's definitely got some good harmonies going on. That's for sure.
Yeah. She comes in singing Moana all the time. It's funny.
Oh no.
Should do a heavy metal cover of "You're Welcome."
Yeah. You're welcome.
Well, listen to her go.
Hey, we definitely appreciate you taking your time to come on and talk to us. Like I said, if you haven't checked out Ashes Rain, they have the Mountains Echoes on Spotify and YouTube. And what about Pandora? Are you just on Spotify or Pandora as well? Everything.
They're on everything.
You have no excuses. You have to listen to it.
Yes,
that is your homework assignment.
Yep, that's your homework assignment. Yep. Ashes Rain, check them out. Yep. Over, like I say, ashesrain.com. It's got the links to all their social media. Check them out on YouTube. Check them out on Spotify and Pandora, all those places. Check out the EP Mountains Echoes. Came out this year, back in May, I believe it was. Yep, May 6th is when it came out. 4 tracks, 21 minutes, 21 seconds. Check them out. Vinny, we appreciate you coming on, man. We're
following you guys, so we're following you guys. So when you post the new stuff, we'll be able to share it on our social
Absolutely. Yep. We'll definitely get the new single out there when it comes out, man.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me out here. It's been really enjoyable, guys. Once again, appreciate what you guys are doing. Thank you for having this platform. Thanks for having musicians and bands on here, and just keeping metal, in the ears of people, man. So thank you guys so much.
Yeah, we're trying to do our best to bring metal to the masses. So
we can't play, so we have to do our part. So
that's right. We don't know how to play it. That's right. Yeah.
Neither do I. That's no excuse.
All right, Vinny, man. We hope to talk to you guys again. Hope to talk to you guys again soon, man. Keep us posted on everything.
Will do. Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, man. You have a good one, man.
Yeah. Have a great night.
Yeah. Have a great night, guys.
All right, bud. Take care.
Good job.
All right, Vinny Carrion, everybody, lead singer and guitar player for Ashes Rain. We greatly appreciate him spending his Friday night with us. It's
It's
Saturday
almost
morning in
Saturday. Yeah,
Virginia.
Saturday morning
Yeah,
there. Yeah.
yeah, it's Saturday morning in Virginia, so he's an hour ahead of us over there. So
Yeah.
he
Actually,
definitely.
my laptop's still set to Virginia time because that's when I opened it. It was when I was there, so it automatically
Oh
took.
yeah, there you go.
So that's what I was looking at the whole time. I was like, yeah, I know what time it is there. So
Yep. Yeah, but yeah, that was one hell of an in-depth interview, man. He really gave a lot of good insight to
yeah,
the ins and outs of everything that they
actually,
go through.
I think he gave a lot of good, points to newer bands coming up too. Is
Yeah.
kind of the do's and don'ts of getting into the scene. So
Yeah.
Honestly, I think a lot of our guests have done that, which is cool because I think that's one of the things. Even though they're not mainstream yet, they're still giving the bands coming up behind them, an edge over what they came into. So,
Right.
and it's
Yeah.
kind of one of those things where you always leave it better than you found it. So,
You would
I
hope.
think,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of our bands that we've interviewed are doing their part in doing that, which is awesome. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. But yeah, definitely looking forward to hearing that single come out. And of course, like you said, the LP I think is going to be. I think that based on what we've heard on the EP over the last week to 10 days or so, and then the cover is going to be interesting because I think they always are. They're not always great. They're not always great, but the spin that the bands put on, like you said, is always interesting to hear which way they go with it. Are they going to try to do a faithful cover? Are they going to try to add their own spin? So it'll be interesting to see which avenue they take. Even though he kind of did tell us a little bit, but it'll be good.
It'll be heavy.
It'll be heavy, which obviously we like that. So it'll be interesting to see how the finished product comes out. I think they've got a really good shot of the LP kind of elevating them.
I do too. Yeah,
to a good place.
You can't say the guys aren't doing their part in getting their name out there because like I said,
they are not.
They're promoting their ass off. So wish nothing but good things for those guys. Hopefully,
absolutely.
Hopefully, we have a different, like I said, with all these other bands. Hopefully, we have a different conversation. Years down the line where we're both prospering for what we love to do. So
yeah, absolutely.
And I want to take time to thank Jeremy too for stopping in and following us on our socials as well. And
absolutely,
I was obviously a big follower of Ashes Rain. So we always appreciate.
Well, Ashes Rain has definitely made new fans with Metalheads Unite here at the show. So definitely
hopefully within the group too. So hopefully we
hope so. But yeah, we appreciate Jeremy. We appreciate you coming and hanging out if you're still here. If not, we appreciate you coming and hanging out anyway. If we get one new fan, then that's that the more the merrier. So even if we're getting fans one at a time, every little bit is welcome. So,
and if you guys are listening to us tonight, and you're not tired of our voices, you can hear us again in the morning. So we do our regular broadcast. So
so we're actually less than 12 hours away now from our regularly scheduled program, the Metalheads Unite podcast that comes on at 10 o'clock Central Time here on Saturdays, right here at the very same platforms you've watched us on tonight. So yeah, I mean, if this was if our interview with Vinny was your first time watching the show, we appreciate it and welcome, and hopefully that'll give you a good taste of what you have to look forward to. Of course, we don't have a guest lined up for tomorrow's show, which we don't have a guest lined up every week. I mean, we're not quite to that point yet. But,
not yet. We're trying. But.
We're getting there. Well, thankfully we got guys like Vinny who are willing to help us out with that. So.
Right. Yeah, and also if you're new to the show and you want to check out some older interviews, we have those over at YouTube as well. So I think the Devil, and if not, you can find it on the Facebook page if you follow us on Facebook or or Twitch or anything like that. There should be stuff over there. So all right. Well, I guess we will wrap this bad boy up for today until in the morning. We'll see you guys. when I probably have a thing of coffee in my hand at this point. So I still got to do some touch ups in the mornings before I get on here. So
yeah, I got some last minute polish to put on the show notes for the morning myself, but I'm probably about 95% done. So
yeah, same. So
yeah,
so not too much left to go.
So it won't be so bad. But yep, we'll check you guys out. You guys check us out, but we'll catch you guys here.
Right.
We'll catch you guys here tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock Central Time. Wherever you're catching us from, just if you need to know what time that is, we're in the same time zone as Chicago. So if you look up what time it is in Chicago, it's the same time here. So, that's how you'll find us. You'll find us here. We'll be here tomorrow morning. So
until in the morning, keep your devil horns held high and jump in that pit anytime you can.
Thank you guys.
Can't forget the tag, man.
No, you can't forget the tagline. Absolutely not.
All
right. See you guys tomorrow. All right.